everyone.
Hey.
Welcome to another episode of No Mite Monday, live beekeeping chat. So
Good evening.
You can interpret that any way you want. Either we don't talk about mites, or we're not going to have mites in our colonies on Mondays. Every other day of the week is fine, but not Mondays.
Every other day of the week is not fine, but it's life.
It is life. They're there. Just plan on it. So Castle got his GoPro 12, filmed the last video with the 11 and 12 to compare. They'll be the same. GoPro to me is more like, it's like the iPhone of cameras. They all look about the same. They all do about the same thing. Some of the stuff just, is he eating McDonald's French fries?
Yeah.
Charles, what are we going to do with you?
I didn't get a supper. I finished mine just
in time.
Just in time.
Yeah, I'm still feeling a little bit rough. You know, I was feeling kind of bad, and then the escapades on Saturday night made me feel even worse, and I have not felt good since.
Well, you look better today than you did yesterday.
Well, that's the 9,000 stings I took from that pissed off hive.
A little apitherapy, you know.
Yeah,
for a person.
That and you know, a little Benadryl after the fact. But it was a busy day, you know, even though not feeling good, getting out there, putting the feet on, and bugging Brad all day long about, hey, what about this? What about that? What about this? And, you know, that trickle feed, he's like, it's so slow. You just put it in there. They'll probably drink it right out of the hose faster than it's coming out. And they were trying. They were trying, but
they're doing a good job too.
They were doing a very good job. They ended up, I think the last time when I did that trickle feed, I think I probably put, I don't know, 5 to 10 gallons in.
Nice.
And the first one was 5 gallons. So they probably took about 15 gallons out of that tote today.
Wow. That's nice.
And hopefully, you know, it's getting their hives fat and happy back there.
So if you put a 2-inch hose, you know, I think that's a hole is what's coming out, right?
Yeah, it's a 2-inch coarse thread. Or what do you call it? A buttress thread?
I think it's called buttress. Yeah.
I was even looking at the little bulkhead fittings, right? I'm like, well, maybe if you unscrew the bulkhead fitting, one half of it would work. No, not the ones that Tractor Supply wouldn't. So,
yeah, buttress. I don't know. It's not. I don't see it very much. My hardware store, they got almost everything, and I showed them that, and they just went, "Oh,
right."
If it's NPT, Bob's your uncle because everything is NPT."
Right. Well, I mean, for what I do, though, I mean, it is slow, but it still gets the job done. Right?
Yeah, but it's more of a trickle than anything else. It ain't slow.
Well, yeah. So if it's on the tailgate, it's really slow because it's actually you're lifting up for it to come back down, and then you just have the weight of the liquid pushing it out. But if I put it down, you get a little more of the gravity and it fills up quicker. But yeah, it is still slow. But
well, can't you find is there a coupling that you can screw right on there with a regular, like I said, with a regular poly pipe on it?
Yes, sir, there is.
I mean, that's what I got. It screws on mine that way. And I mean, you know, it's 2-inch pipe, and that you ought to be able to fill that bucket up in about a minute and a half.
Yeah, I was looking at pumps, you know, but right now for me to go out and spend $500 on a pump only to make my syrup go faster.
I ain't saying you use a pump.
No, I'm just saying but the 2-inch, if I get the 2-inch, then it's like, well, it hooks right to a 2-inch pump. And so that would be
yeah, but I mean, if you take if you bought one of them quick couplers, which was a 2-inch, put a flex hose on there of some sort, come on out several feet past your tailgate and down, you should be able to open that gate up and you'd have a good stream with no,
Right.
hey, you'd be able to fill your 5-gallon buckets up in no time flat.
I'm gonna tell you what kind of clowns my friends are, right? So I sent Todd that video that I sent you guys this morning. He says, "Looks like your hose needs to get its prostate checked." it's got a flow issue. So, but
I'll be back.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I
See
gotta
you, Charlie.
go.
Bye-bye.
We see you next
Bye, Charlie.
week, Charles.
Yeah.
But it is letting syrup out of the tote, so that's good. It's until I can get the fitting ordered and buy the other stuff and
Oh yeah, you know what? I have boxes of fittings around here because of stuff that I want to put together, and it's kind of you get to the store, and the store is 20 miles away, and it's like, oh, buy one of these, 2 of those, and 6 of them, and you do that a half a dozen times, and then you end up with just a ton of spare parts. So then after a while, you do a project, and it's, oh, look, I've already got that. It's in the box.
Well, all of my jars have 4 or 5 holes in them, in the top of them. So Amir just said that maybe I need more holes in my jars.
How big are the holes?
1/16.
Yeah, I go 12 to 15 holes minimum.
Really?
Yeah,
But
you go a lot.
they are. I mean, they usually don't have a problem. I guarantee you, by the time I get there in the morning, empty.
Yeah, and again, I remember I said earlier today. You said I've never fed 2 to 1 before, and I had never fed 1 to 1 in my life. So, if you go 12 to 15 holes in your lid, maybe you're feeding 1 to 1. It might not work as well. I can't say.
Well, I know it didn't work as well in one of those 2-gallon buckets, right? So when I flipped it upside down, there was always a line of bees on the Hive leans a little bit forward.
Yeah.
Always bees on that front lip, right?
How many holes do you have in that?
I bought those from Bob Binney. I believe they've got 5 or 6 holes in them as well.
Okay.
And but then I put the 2 to 1 in there today. No bees on that. So it's like, I think a little bit too thick. Yeah, I opened up the top to let air through, let it run through. So a lot of people have been leaving helpful comments, right? Like, take the brass fitting off that I use for the valve because it's just got probably a little tiny hole in it that when you flip
it is a bit small. Yeah, I was thinking that too. I just didn't tell you that.
Didn't want to rain on my parade.
No.
So,
But honestly, you take that off, it's really not going to speed up that much. And you kind of need that little valve anyway at the end.
my bees take 2 jars a day in one hive. That's pretty good. Quarts, they're taking 2 quarts a day. I know I put a 1-gallon frame feeder in one of those colonies that I did, and it was gone out of there. I had to fill it back up. I mean, there's probably a little bit down at the bottom, but I filled it up today. So I don't know. See, there's a fine line now, right? So I want them to have weight on them, but I don't want them to backfill it because I want her to still lay. So
yeah, that's a fine line.
Gonna be measuring it out there and see. Charlie can't even eat his French fries for the phone calls. Don't worry, Charlie. You're not on a live stream or nothing. Take your time.
French
we got
fries
all
are
night.
getting cold.
He got us muted again, right?
Yeah.
Drinking his Dr. Pepper or Diet Coke there.
Well, I got another 700 or so pounds spun out today. Not a really big day, but making progress.
Well, that picture was a photo you sent me, right? Or was it just on the? We've been talking so much today.
Yeah, it was just a picture of a pile of pails.
But that's the pile of pails from your out yard, like the second yard. Right?
Well, you know what? There's a few from the main yard there, but mostly out yard. So I mean, what did I say we've done? Probably
1,500
1,500
pounds
pounds.
from the out yard.
Yeah, yeah, but that includes probably 400 pounds in the melter yet. I think there was 1,150 pounds we've got in the pail from the out yard.
It's quite a bit of honey right there.
That's a pretty small pile compared to what's on the other side, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah. But hey, for a brand new
It's
nuke,
like,
first year over there, right? So,
oh yeah, and there's plenty to go.
And-
there'd be probably more than that much yet from there.
And then you're just gonna. Well, you've already started putting feed on some of the colonies.
Oh yeah, I'm almost done feeding.
So you're almost backfilled and everything ready to go in the shed.
I need to do some inspections. I mean, I've got apivar in, so I need to get in there middle of October and get that out. But as far as how much feed I generally put on the hives, I've put almost all the feed on the hives that they normally would take. Some of the nukes I'm still feeding because I've got just half-gallon jars, so it takes quite a few of them.
Put a Schrader valve in your tote lid and 20 pounds of PSI with my compressor. But how would you maintain 20 pounds of PSI as well?
Well, regulator. Remember I said that? I said that the other day. I said
Schrader valve on top, or let's say it's in the cap, right in the lid, and you screwed on.
Sure.
And you put the pressure on it as it's draining out. You have to keep increasing pressure, right? You have to keep pumping it up. Or
pressure is pressure. Pressure is pressure. You have to keep adding air.
Right.
Your air compressor needs to be running
to keep it from vacuuming itself in as it's coming out.
Well, if you're pressurizing a tank, it won't. But if you don't keep, if your air compressor is not running, then it'll kind of decrease pressure as you take the syrup out.
Okay,
But yeah, remember I said that on the weekend that you can use your air compressor to pressurize your tank?
Yeah, we were talking about that last night. Round feeders take 1.5 liters, and that means it's a quart and a pint, or a quart and a half for a round feeder. So you are putting a little bit more on, but then mine also had the benefit of the big tote open feed too. So they're taking
I didn't do any open feed this year, not so far anyway.
So don't worry, Charlie. You're not live on the screen or nothing.
Yeah, we got you. We can
take your time. We got you all night.
We got it.
Who's going to handle the single brood chamber management section? You can't hear us.
Don't get me going. So I think I need to fill my jars tomorrow. I was out there this morning and there was at least one of them that was nearly empty. So I need to keep them topped up. It's got to be an automated way, got to be able to run a manifold to my hives. Little float valve or something. Fill the jugs in the jars.
Just do like you said to me. Just set up one of like a drip system where it's just continuously dripping in the buckets somehow. Yep. Or if you had a frame feeder, you could really do it, right? You could put a frame feeder in and have it just dripping in the frame feeder with a little tiny piece of nylon hose or something. And that way, as they're drinking it down, it's just constantly filling up. But of course, if you forget, which I'd forget to shut it off and go inside and fall asleep, take an old man nap, and come back 3 hours later, and there's syrup all over my yard.
That's your trouble. You need a regulation system.
Yeah. Hey, Randy, everything that has been ordered either went out Saturday or today. So if you ordered it before Saturday, it went out Saturday. And now you want to come on and make noise. You just totally forgot you were on the stream. 20-minute phone call. Oh yeah, things are going good.
Ask my mentee about feeding and all that stuff.
Well, you should just have him send him a link and said, "Come on in. The water's fine. You could learn something, maybe, from those two guys." Oh wait,
Yeah,
that guy and that guy learn something.
I don't know. Not going to learn much from me.
well, I just got to wait for the weather to clear in order to do anything.
Well, I wish I would have taken a video of those bees today, but it was too much happening. I didn't even take a picture of the final product because I went out there a little bit later to check the mail, and I was by the light pole, right? And they saw me coming already, like, F that guy, we're gonna get him, you know. The amount of stingers that were in my blue jeans was pretty insane. I had to change suits 3 times, Charlie. I went out there, I had the little pull-on veil, right? And then they were all fired up. So I'm like, yeah, this isn't gonna work. I went in and got my my new jacket that I had.
Right.
Then they decided they wanted to tear my legs up. So then I went back in with my blue jeans on and my hoodie and put on my full suit. And I still got stung once on the ankle, right? But other than that, everything else was golden. They were really fired up. Matter of fact, that box was
why were they fired up?
Well, that hive didn't have a bottom board, or I didn't have the screen bottom board, right? So that's on it now. I put the tablets in it, but it got box reversed. They were so pissed. I wasn't staying out there any longer to move the box off to the side to put the other box down how they had it and the other one back. I took the top box, it went on the bottom board, bottom box went on the top, feeder, lid, I'm out. And I mean, they were, now if smoke wouldn't have done crap to those bees.
But they still had the beetle problems, what you're saying?
Yeah, and then guess what? I lifted up the bottom board and there was like termites underneath it.
Yeah, I got another call.
Don't worry. We're not doing anything.
It's all right. It's all right. We got it.
Yeah, we got it. Yeah.
We got it. Sent you a link there.
You sent me a link?
It's a picture. Picture of something. It wasn't exactly what I was looking for, but it's I don't know what it is exactly, but it just depicts what I had in my mind.
All right, so how am I going to do this? Open. No, I don't want to Shutterstock thing. Present, share screen. I'll do a tab, share. Can you see it? Not yet, of course.
No.
Because I got to click this. And we'll put it solo. And I can't make it any bigger.
It made it a little
just a
little syrup plinko. Actually, it's water, this one, but a little.
And it just goes down back and forth and runs off the end into this open
into the bucket, I guess. That's kind of
cool.
neat. Yeah.
That'd be usually like I see bald face hornets and yellow jackets and all that over at the feed, but I haven't seen much of that this year.
Oh, good.
Now, beetles and all the other crap, yeah, we got that, but not too much on the yellow jacket end and stuff like that this year. Let me see. Put the
you don't need more pests, do you? There's plenty.
No, and those big ones, I knew they were going to be feisty. I said it yesterday. I said they need to get moved, but I'm just not. I know they're going to be mad, right? So I just didn't even want to mess with them. And so I took down the first row in the back that had the two framers on it, right? The first one, and moved that over to the side, and it worked out pretty well. So I put that hive stand immediately, I mean, behind where they were. Like the front end of the hive stand was almost touching the back of the box. So by the time I put the new bottom board down, the landing board was probably a couple inches from the back of the box. So I just lifted it up and set it right back on it. And let's see. But yeah.
Well, you got to get those on because that's going to help you with that beetle problem.
Yeah. So I still have one in the bees were so bad. I still have the big box, the master case that those came in out there, and there's one of them unopened still in the box. So if anybody's in the neighborhood and needs a free bottom board tonight, they're sitting outside. But
just ran away.
Yeah. It was bad. It was bad. But
well, it doesn't take much to chase me out of the apiary. I'm used to working pretty gentle bees.
You remember the little video I sent you where it said I almost got into the colony? You know, using the essential oils, whatever essential oils he put on there, and that's what it was like. That's how bad it was.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was. They were all in my veil. I was sweating. My glasses slid off my face. There were so many bees I couldn't grab the veil to push to get my glasses back on. So that's that's how those two big colonies. And I fired one of them up, right? I mean, the first one was mad, and I got it moved. And then what do? We're going to put the next one. And now it's mad because my other one's mad.
They just join in.
Yeah, they're just. It was brutal.
I don't know why we're mad, but apparently we're mad. So let's go.
It was pretty tough.
All the cool kids are doing it.
But now I've got 4 of those 10 framers up off the ground on a stand. So that should help with the pests. The bottom board should help with the pests. And the tablet should help with some pests. And so that'll be what we're doing from here out, man. Just trying to. And I really noticed it on my other colonies that once that stress on the hive starts going away, the bees start to calm down. And
that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and like I put those boards on, and these ones I left the little black shim in underneath. And when I went to pull them out to put the oil in it, there was already beetles down in the trap. They had just
not even waiting for the oil.
No, they were just down there. And
can't wait.
Yeah, they can't wait to die, and I can't wait for them to die. So it worked out pretty well. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get something. I mean, even like I have to wear thick pants. The jacket will do great up here. Those new gloves that I got from these things. Hold on. Show and tell time.
Show and tell time. Oh, I'm glad you came back.
These gloves work really well. So, I mean, that's just the normal fabric, right?
Yeah.
But these are like dipped in that rubber stuff.
Oh, okay.
And other than your hand sweating, the bees can't sting through this.
Okay.
So that, and if I get sugar on these, no big deal, right? If it's on the leather, it gets all nasty. But yeah, I like these really, really well.
Good.
And so that was a blessing. And matter of fact, a random person that ordered the tablets has a pack of those in their box because he sent me 2 free ones, right? So
awesome.
I paid it forward. So just as a gift, one of the boxes has it in there.
Share the love.
and so there's that. Oh, and guess what? He talked to me today. He said, "Bob, if you want, you can sell those gloves. I'll start
right on.
selling you these gloves to sell." So they're from what I gather, they're pretty good for doing like cutouts and stuff like that too, right? Because you're always grabbing the comb and cutting it out and getting your hands all sticky and everything.
Yeah.
So they're pretty good. And thank you, Bob Rex. So I don't even remember whose box it's in. So I literally packed up 19 boxes. It was a stack of boxes, right? So
hopefully it's their size.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he sent them to me. These fit me. It's size 10. I don't know what size 10 equates to in anything, but I was just looking. I mean, this is just hold on. I don't know if you can see them. Probably can't. Stinger action.
Oh, right on.
Where they were trying to sting around my hand in the jacket. And so yeah, so Chris, I called Zach. He said I can't come back to work till I get a COVID test. Now, so Chris has COVID. Chris came and visited, and I haven't felt good a few times in the last couple weeks, right?
Oh yeah.
So they're like, yeah, before you bring any of that into the yard, go get a test. So.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So well, Chris was here, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I guess he's feeling better, but who knows, man? They tell you one place says, "Oh, it's 2 weeks incubation." One person says, it's not, it's a few days. I don't know, but all I know is I felt like crap, and I know I didn't help me feeling like crap with what I did the other night. So, however, it was freaking hilarious. So if you were one of the guys that was there, we had a blast. Charlie's having a blast right now, just not with us.
Yeah, just a lot like Charlie. Having a blast.
Matter of fact, we're going to do that until he comes back.
It's you and me, buddy.
Just me and you, kid. Let me see. If they're using
I'm not that much of a talker, though, so.
Not on the stream, but on the...
Don't give it all away.
Let's see. So yeah, that's what Todd said. He'll be coming in a minute as well. So
good.
He's driving home. Of course, that could be 5 hours in California. So hey, I learned something today, which I shared with you. But in searching pumps, I learned that pumps cause cancer in California.
Yes.
They have a Prop 65 warning on them.
And everything causes cancer in California.
So that's he was taking up real estate. Just don't use it in California, right? We're just going to pump it from here.
Yeah, don't use it in California because you'll get cancer.
Get cancer once I cross the border.
Yeah.
How do you get cancer from a pump? Oh, dewatering pump.
I don't know. Go to California and ask.
Only in California. Only in California.
Only in California, the great state of California.
Charlie, what are you doing to us tonight?
Oh, it's all right. Charlie's got business.
A wood shovel handle has the P65. Oh, are you ready to join the stream, Charlie? Have we? I'm sorry we've inconvenienced you this evening with a live stream.
It's almost like you have a life instead of just, us that don't.
No, just I had the mentee was talking about mixing sugar water, and then the second call was my email liaison in my club. So talked about this.
Well, see, if she was a real fan, of bees. She would have been in the chat. She would have known you were live streaming. Not well. That doesn't matter. I take that back because no sooner than I go live and I know people are getting notifications because I start seeing them pop up in the chat. My phone will ring every time, and I'm like, "Yeah, why aren't you watching my video right now?" Well, hey, Chris. COVID,
Hey,
Chris, ladies and gentlemen. COVID.
Bob? Yeah, I had to jump in just to show you I'm still alive.
You're alive and kicking.
Yeah. But to let you know, I did contract that COVID from one of my customers on Tuesday.
On Tuesday?
And it took, yeah. And Friday is when I actually got the symptoms. And then I checked my
we'll see.
Self-test on Saturday.
I think it was last Monday. I was feeling like dog crap too. So I don't know. I mean, I've been having some issues, but when I told him that I got a call from you and you said you had COVID and you were at my house a couple weeks ago, so he's like, "Go get tested." I'm like, "Okay."
Well, you can thank me for having a day off, right?
Yeah, I got 32 hours I need to burn up anyway. I should go back to work on Friday.
That's
Friday.
what I'm doing.
Sunday.
That's what I'm doing. Friday.
Friday, take Friday, Saturday, or just work Friday. Yeah, that'd be fine. It'd be good. All right, so Todd's putting his dinner down now. Charlie's got nothing tonight.
What's that?
You got nothing to say tonight?
Oh, I don't know. I
It's a
went
bee
out
chat.
we were talking about last Friday evening. I had put the 1/8-inch hardware cloth in those nukes that I had, the queens that had been building up over the last month or two, and I moved them up on the main line here that you see behind me, filled some holes in, and I used this. It's been raining Saturday and Sunday, and kind of like overcast and misty rain today. So I used the weather. Number one, it's cool, keep the bees from overheating, and number two is I found if you lock them up for 3 days, then unlock them. I just went out there this evening and unlocked them. So tomorrow will be the 4th day, and they should stay where their hives are at. They'll reorientate to their new location. They seem to lose their memory.
Well, I'm wondering how much drift I'm getting from those larger colonies into the smaller colonies today.
Why is
when
that?
I set them all on that hive stand, and they're all kind of confused and just flying places now. So
they'll figure it out.
Oh yeah, so maybe, but they all got bottom boards today, Chris.
Hey, good deal.
So now, prior to the storm or prior to the end of Friday, I had put my 40-gallon tank in my truck, which is in the video. So it's full of sugar water right now. So I'm ready to go out there. Hopefully, maybe tomorrow. I'm not sure whether the weather's going to cooperate or not, but I want to get into the hives and pull the Formic Pro out. It's over 10 days old or more. It's going to be more than that. Almost finished its 14-day cycle. Pull that out of there, put the feeders on, and go start feeding. So I'll be mixing sugar water pretty much every day, or making a batch.
I got a question for you guys. Whenever you guys are sick out in your bee yard, do your bees act different around you?
Oh, my bees were hot as hell today. I mean,
if you're sick, did you ask?
Yeah. Because my bees, they're
sick.
Oh, you're never in your bee yard sick?
I don't think so.
How about you, Charlie?
I mean, I don't think I've ever been there when I was sick.
No, when you're sick and tired and whatever, I'm going to bed. See you later.
Well, I go out there for
I
the
get
sunlight.
sick and tired sometimes.
I just went out there today because of the sun. I was trying to get some sun on me and just see what my bees are doing. And I just sat down in my chair, like I always do, put my music on, and I had, I don't know, 10 bees just buzz around my head. They weren't landing on me; they're just buzzing around me. I'd hold my hand out. Yeah, I put my hand out, and they land on my hand. They looked like they put their nose to my palm of my hand.
Oh no, I had them.
Interesting.
They'll land on me mostly when, like, I just fed, right? Like, so I'm feeding, and for some reason they eat, and then they land on, like, they'll take off and land on a tree or a bush or me or whatever, and then they just start cleaning themselves up before they fly back to the hive, which is kind of.
Well,
like,
these were actually
like you are after Thanksgiving. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm so
right
now. I can't eat another drop. Let me go back to those poor bees at the colony that can't get out here and get any and take all my food from me. So let me just sit here and digest some.
Well, these were actually fanning like they were fanning like a queen bee.
Oh, mine were fanning today pretty good. I think it's because now they're bringing in syrup and they need to start dehydrating it to try to cap it, right?
Well, I'm talking about they were on me doing that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was almost like they were calling in other bees.
You did spray swarm rustler on your hive today. Did you have any of that scent on you still?
No, that was yesterday.
Oh, that was yesterday's video?
Yeah.
Did you wash your hands between yesterday and today?
I've been washing my hands. My hands look like, what do you call it? SpongeBob.
But
that's a constant thing right now.
Yeah, Randy says real men do bee work in the rain. I've been out there when it's kind of misty like that, but it ain't no fun.
Oh, those bees were so mad today. I grabbed a pint jar that had some 1-to-1 in it, and I was like giving them the blessing, trying to get enough on them to where they would calm down. I need to start doing like Jason, just put some sage in my smoker and get all the evil spirits off of them or whatever. I saw, you ever see those bundles of sage that people like smokes and do sage? It looked like that's what he put in his smoker the other day. It might have just been some straw that was twined up or something.
Yeah,
But it looked like sage.
Once you put some tobacco in there, I'll take care of things.
What I need to do is just take my cigarette and burn a hole through the veil so the cigarette sticks out of it. And then I could smoke while I got my veil on. I can just blow smoke into them.
That's the old time smokers used to work that way.
Oh, what'd you think about that little mini smoker?
Oh, that's kind of cute. Would you ever see those, Bob, where it's
like a
they
pipe,
hold
right?
it in their mouth? They hold it in their mouth, and they'll puff away instead of doing the bellows like we do. They just hold it in their mouth and they just puff away at the bees as they work. Freeze up your hands.
And Blaine says, as long as you keep smoking, the bees can't get in because the cigarette's in the hole.
Just make sure you keep going and make sure you take a full pack when you go work your bees.
Today I felt like my bees were haunted. They wanted no part of that.
They didn't want me there either.
They were worse. Trust me, they were very much worse today. And
now I can see the chat.
Not the single deeps.
I couldn't see the chat before.
The single deeps were fine. The ones that I just pushed down and gave feed and gave them a tablet and all that, they were fine. They didn't have the bottom board on them, but they had the mite. Well, they had the tablet in there, and they were calm. But the other ones, they weren't having it. No.
So the ones that weren't, you didn't have your oil boards underneath, right?
Right. None of these had oil boards on them until tonight. So,
all right, well, and you've noticed that in those other ones that as soon as you put those boards in and getting rid of the mite aggravation.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden, she starts laying, right? The beetles. I mean, immediately the beetles, like those colonies were so mean, I felt like, well, once I'll get them up there, and then after I get them set up, then I'll come back and oil the bottom boards and put them in. And when I did that, I mean, first of all, I drowned a bunch of bees because that black tray, they were just like trying to sting it and landing in the oil. And I'm like, I don't care about these ones. They're just going to get oiled and die. They can die in there. So, but hey, you know what? The fact that they're so mean and defensive has probably kept them alive and kept them from absconding while they've been getting brutalized by these beetles and everything. So,
yeah, no doubt.
They might be a little bit more aggressive than the average bee. However, we have unaverage predators, I guess, right now, or stressors on them. And
they're just stressed out.
Oh, yeah, they're real stressed. And so, we'll see. A couple days, they should be right as rain, I think.
Yeah, I pulled them I took a pair of pliers out there and pulled those screens out that were blocking them, from not coming out. They the one that came, they didn't come out and fly because it was kind of a mist, rain in the air. And each one of them, after I got the truck turned around, I looked at each one and, they were kind of like all at the entrance, kind of balled up, you might say, like blocking the entrance. So, and some of them were hanging out a little bit. But,
so Brad gave me the idea for that trickle feed thing, right, today. He's like, I just put the hose in there and let it run because it runs slow. And as it fill up, the bees will start eating it, and they probably can keep up with the flow on there. And so I started it, and I went and showed. There was very few bees on it when I started that. I think I showed you that, Brad, when I was first started to pump it in there. And then what was it? 3 to 5 minutes later, I went back, and it was just getting crushed over there.
Is that where you mean the open air feeder? You mean?
Yeah. So
the big tote.
Let me see if I can.
Yeah, I seen that. That thing was just huge amount of bees.
I came back. I came back and I was looking at it, and I was like, man, it really looks like someone put a lid on it. I'm like, but who would have put a lid on it? And that was just how many bees were clustered around. You couldn't even see the top ring of the tote. There was so many bees in there. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm doing 1 point. I'm doing 0.25 to 1, and I'm getting the same reaction.
Well,
I don't feed them as much sugar, just more water.
Well, my thing is mine don't have any weight in them. So that's kind of where the
sugar is.
Yeah, so and Brad probably could speak more logically to this than I can because I've never fed 2 to 1 before. And so let me see.
Yeah, I tried calling Charlie earlier, but his phone was busy.
2 or 3 times? 2 times? But then I pulled up, I was on the phone with Todd, and I was like, hey, it looks like someone put a lid on it. But it was just, that's how. But you see all the little white dots on there of the remnant sugar that's left there after they've sucked everything up?
That's wax.
No, it's not wax. How can it be wax?
There's no wax in there.
They're leaving wax behind?
Mm-hmm. That's the wax platelets.
I didn't know they made wax that fast, though.
I see that all the time.
Huh.
That's not what I was trying to show you. Not that one. Y'all seen all the... Oh. This was Brad's idea. This was literally 3 minutes after... That's when I was first still had the hose down there where it was still running in. And they found it out really quick. So you see how much has gone out of that tote, Charlie?
Yeah, I was just looking at that. You've dropped that, what, 4 or 5 inches?
Yeah, it's put quite a bit of feed out today. Can't afford 2 to 1. Well, you could afford it if you bought it where I bought it. Maybe. I mean, it's not cheap, but I'm getting it cheaper than
Yeah,
making
that's pretty
1 to 1.
cheap.
Yeah, it's cheaper than buying sugar and mixing it.
Yep.
Because to do that with buying sugar, it's $34 for 5 gallons. If you buy sugar.
Ed said his hives crushed 10 gallons today. Yeah, I mean, it's I'm surprised because I got a lot of goldenrod blooming around me. And they're bringing pollen in, so I guess I've got the goldenrod that doesn't make nectar.
That's
It's
exactly
only
right.
making pollen. So, well, I mean, they need pollen too, right? So that's good. And we're just gonna let them do their thing. Todd's asleep already. He just got on the stream.
No, I'm not asleep. I'm listening.
John's getting 50 pounds of sugar for $26.
That's
Where?
not a bad price. Oh,
Yeah, I paid
there went Chris.
$32.60 for mine. That's a good price.
That's cheap. That's even cheaper
Where? in
than
the
I get
world?
it by a little bit. I get about 40, 45 pounds for $27.
The
Now, my question is with Southeastern Homestead, do you feed your bees? I mean,
who
I
went?
know if he's in Southeast, obviously he
Cost?
was the one he couldn't afford 2 to 1 sugar.
Oh,
Is he down in the deep South where they don't have to feed a lot?
I don't know anybody in the deep South that don't have to feed a lot. All of us are having to feed in between and around.
Mm.
Really, only by the semi-load. Well, you got to have the hookup, I guess. I mean, I think our place only does liquid feed. I mean, their warehouse has totes in it and pumps tankers full, right? So,
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. 5 gallons and a half a day doesn't surprise me at all. I can, my hives behind me there with those 3-quart jars, top hive feeders, they'll go through that in 4 to 6 hours.
how many colonies do you have down there southeast? I mean, because I've put out 15 gallons in that tote at one time, and it's and they've taken it down quick. Oh yeah, he's buying the bags of sugar. Yeah, but some of my colonies have no stores in them. I mean, they're just no stores. That zombie hive, Todd,
Yeah.
the one that had all the mite drop in it, I put a 2-gallon pail on them today because they'll kill a quart in no time. So they got a 2-gallon bucket today.
Nice.
So
I'm scouring the local Costco to see if they have bags of sugar on sale. They usually
Sorry, I
don't
had a
have
call.
50-pound bags.
really, you left the stream for a call, Charlie? How's
Yeah.
that work?
The goal.
The gall. My babies go through 15 gallons in 6 hours. That's about how mine are on the open feed. I mean, I would have not. My thing is putting out 2 to 1. Didn't even think about it ever because I'm like, yeah, I just want to keep them fed. But now I'm trying to put it up, get them to store it. And you're thinking this will help them store it better because it's thicker, more sugar.
Yeah,
I think it will.
And then feeding 1 to 1 on them.
they don't have to dry it down
Yeah.
before they can cap it. So you cut the water content down, and they will be able to cap it and turn it into honey quicker and easier.
Well, we're gonna keep putting it on there to see what happens. My thing is, I mean, I just need them to store it. They have to store it. to put some weight on there. Because if they just continuously eat it, I mean, I can't get it to them fast enough.
Well,
I have to go buy bigger jars.
yeah, but what about the ones that you had them licensed top high feeders on there? Fill them things up and you get them. Takes 4 or 5 hours and they're gone. Maybe a day.
Well, yeah. Even those little 6-frame nukes, I got the little trough feeders on them, right? So they've got syrup in them as well. But
but when you go back, when you pull a frame up after a top high feeder eater, I got those licensed 5-frame feeders or 5, nuke feeders.
Right.
Go back in there. I mean, that's what I was doing. I was using, I'll say, a 1-to-1 on those baby hives I've been working with, and with a jar, and they suck the jar down, but very little of any liquid nectar in the combs. But as soon as I went and just gave them the straight Pro Sweet, which is like a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1, then they started. You could see you didn't cap it, but it was in the comb for their use. So you had, I guess there's more solids in the liquid in turn that they filled their bellies up, and they said, okay, we can't eat anymore, so we need to put it in the comb. And that kind of, if you think about it in that term.
But, yeah, it's a slow drain, but it got the job done. I can pull my truck right in between the colonies now instead of having to tote the buckets and then dip them and then have sugar syrup on the outside of them. I can just fill them up, and it's not, baby steps, right? Maybe later like a pump or something.
Right. I mean, I did buckets, and I had top high feeders, and I'll say I had 4 highs, maybe 6 at the most. And I had top high feeders on with them, and I would do like 6 5-gallon buckets of syrup, cook it on the stove, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I need to put a whole small pack of Apis in that tote and mix it in. So I'm going to have to liquefy it. So I'm going to have to add a little bit of water to the syrup. Then I'm going to be up there with the mixing paddle, right? And try to disperse it.
Yeah, I think that little bit's going to affect your 2-to-1 that much.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a little bit thicker than 2-to-1, in my opinion.
It does look a lot thicker.
But they love it. I mean,
it's like that Pro Sweet of mine. It's like a 3-to-1, and it's like kind of like Karo syrup. That's how thick it is, and that's going to be awfully hard to pump if you even have a good pumper. Hey, Brian.
And Brian, thank you. I saw that you getting the package out tomorrow, and I appreciate that. And so that's what we got going. And then now I've got to kind of monitor it, right? I've got to monitor how much they're storing away in the colony so it might be something where I have to mix some 1-to-1 and give it to colonies and keep some that in 2-to-1, right? But I don't want the bigger colonies coming to steal it from the little colonies. So there's always.
I think the biggest thing is if you can fill your 5-gallon buckets at least half full, and then you can take and dump them in let's say your top high feeders, the ones you have those. They'll pack it away,
and just get them filled up. Alex, how are you?
Doing great. Mixing some more sugar for my bees. I have 19 pails done, 8 left to go, I think.
You got 19 pails of sugar feed to top hide feed?
Yeah, I've got 19 done today. I got 8 more to go, 9 more to go.
Just bring them down here. We'll set them out in the tote by next winter. You'll have it full, and you can.
The price that stuff cost me, I'll keep it. Thank you.
your sugar's cheap up there?
Well, at Costco, it's $31 Canadian.
All right, so that's $25 or so, right?
Yeah,
Roughly,
for 25 pounds.
40 pounds.
40 pounds.
Dang.
Yeah, that is cheaper than what we got.
But this syrup is the real deal here. I'm glad that we can get it.
Did you say 45 Canadian, Alex?
35,
31.
31 Canadian.
Holy cow, that's $23.
So
Dang.
That's the
I
cheapest
got
I
up,
can find.
Bob, and I thought I heard you say that you were thanking me for something. Was that genuine, or was that one of those? Well, thanks to Brad.
Oh no!
situations.
Did I say thanks to Brad for you got up for something and you?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I had to take a break.
Oh, for the oh, you had to go get another Fresca.
Yeah, that's it.
You guys are.
You had to go see
I
a
needed-
man about a dog.
That's right. I needed more ice. We'll say that.
He must have went and checked his
and
honey
garlic sauce.
supplies at the store.
So I just wondered what I was being thanked for.
So how many
I don't even remember now.
I'll catch the
liters or
replay.
pounds of sugar is it, Alex, in a bag?
40.
40 pounds of sugar per bag.
Is that 20
That
kg, Alex?
Yeah, 20 kg bags.
That's about
$31 at
44,
Costco.
almost 45 pounds.
And how much did you pay?
$31
$31.
Canadian.
21.
30.
Which is
31?
$23 American.
I
That's
got
good price.
15 of them. That's more than enough. I'll have some extra if I want
That
to.
bag is 27 at Costco here.
Well, you're lucky, I guess. The other place I found a sugar
Not
distributor.
lucky. Pre-COVID, it was 20 or less.
I'm lucky because I contacted a distributor and they were selling the bags $42. So yeah, no.
Let me see.
All
Let's
right.
talk about brake pads in the chat. Am I missing any comments? I probably am.
No, not really. Everybody had a great time listening to.
Tim and Hannah and Brian last night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I caught a little bit of that. It seemed like it was a pretty good presentation.
It was very good.
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed it. I was not feeling too good.
Yeah, I was the same way. Under the weather. Slightly hungover, under the weather.
I was more like under the covers.
I was Saturday night was fun and exhausting all at the same time.
You had the flu yesterday.
Yeah, I had the spiced rum flu.
26-ounce flu.
Yeah, that's it.
The cocktail flu.
It was rough. But the
No, DC, I didn't give Bob the flu.
the kung flu.
Unspecified virus of unknown origin.
That's right. Would be demonetized.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Oh my gosh. Well, don't all you fellers talk at one time.
Well, it's Monday. We can talk about a certain topic, and so
We can't say the M word, and
yeah.
I'm just extracting. I got nothing interesting. It's just same thing over and over. Put the frames in, make them go round and round, and put that golden liquid in a pail. That's all there is.
And then you're what, Brad? You're working on your out yard, is it now? You're done with your
Yeah, I'm
home
about
yard, right?
What did I say? Just over 1,100 pounds in the pail from the out yard now. So Well, I'm probably about halfway through that. That's what I'm estimating anyway. I don't know how much there's going to be. So another, I don't know, a couple days, maybe 3, just to wrap up.
There you go.
I did requeen all my colonies this year. And they have a very different demeanor after the beetles are gone. Very, very different demeanor.
More than half the problem.
Oh yeah.
You say now I can lift every level D without a veil.
probably
The first thing is I wouldn't go in a bee yard whether they're friendly or not without a veil.
Yeah, I mean that's why I like that pullover one, because they have a tendency of trying to land on my glasses or go in underneath the glass if I'm out there. But
Well, the thing of it is, you can get stung in the eye and lose eyesight. That's not,
No, I got stung right next to the eye in Bob's house.
Oh, they're different. I mean, most of them are different now. Now that probably 80% of my colonies have some sort of beetle trap under them now.
Yeah, I just ordered 3 more bottom boards already for myself.
Lisa says the same thing. Once the beetles and then the M are controlled, demeanor changes. Yep, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you one thing, they don't care. Even the nice ones don't care for you to pick up a 2-gallon pail that they're feeding off by the handle and just pick it up, and the bucket lifts up and real quick because there's still liquid in it, and it throws bees in the air, and the first thing they do is
they really hate that.
Oh, they really hate that. So let the buckets run dry.
They were just having a nice meal out, and somebody rips a roof off the restaurant.
Tornado comes by and just tears them.
I'll be right back. I'm not getting on the phone. Don't worry.
John, count your blessings, brother. You didn't see any beetles this year. But those bottom boards are working. And I have, let me see, I've put on, I guess 9 plus the one you brought, so that's 10 plus all of those trays, which I got 15 of those, right? So 25 of the colonies have at least some sort of deterrent in there right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna do what you did. I'm gonna clean my trays out and put your tablets in my hives for the mites, and I'll record it. What's that?
Then give it a few days and then go back and check it and see what it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you. How many days do you think is the best?
I don't know. I didn't even check mine for like 7 days after, because I wasn't thinking about it. It just wasn't. And when I did check it, I was like, oh, wow, there's a lot of mites in here. And then the only thing that was different about it was that I had put a tablet in it. So.
Yeah, so I'm going to record it, see how it works. And I'll put my results out for everybody. I'll video it.
And it'll be good. The creator of it will be on the live stream tomorrow night. So at least
that should be good.
Have you put those things in the hives that had Apivar in?
I've got it in one right now. I've just hadn't been feeling good and trying to get the other ones squared away, right up to at least where those other ones are. Just trying to get them up there, so that's kind of the goal right now. And then, one I do have it in, but it's such a small colony. I mean, the one that we put that the bottom board you brought me on, Chris, was so small that it was like they had 2 Apivar strips in that colony, and it was tiny, right? So I don't know that. First of all, if they did have a mite load before that it would have been pretty low after the Apivar, because she wasn't really doing much and there wasn't many bees in there. So I've checked it. There's a few mites. Oh, I said the word. You suckered me into it.
Chris said,
There
Chris
were
said it too, and I wasn't going to say anything.
there were a few M's in the bottom.
Please.
So let me see.
Well, now that the cat's out of the bag, you're gonna have to make a drinking game out of it.
Yep. Oh no, I've sworn it off after Saturday night. I'm through.
No more drinking games.
No more.
Till
No,
at least Wednesday.
Yeah. I promise never to do it again until the next time I do it. I promise. Put $1 in the M jar. That's what I need to do. We need to make an M jar and set it up. Every time someone says the M word, they got to deposit.
Use that to pay for your treatments.
Right. Well, hey, I did order some more today, so they're coming. Another 2 cases coming in. So
The disc things?
yeah. And he's got a few other things that he's going to call me about to see if I want to carry those or not. So did like that the little smoker. I think that's pretty cool. You put it on your desk. It's a pen holder, but it's a mini smoker. It's about as wide as a mouse, your mouse for your computer. And you just use it for a pen holder, pencil holder on your desk. So those are pretty cool. But those, the gloves maybe, and he said he's got a bunch of products that are coming.
You might as well just open up your own shop there, Bob.
Yeah, the only thing about my own shop is rent, electric, internet, all that stuff that goes along. See, right now, if I don't sell anything on my website, whatever. If I open up a store, first of all, I have to be at said store, which means I can't have my day income.
That way you don't have to do bugs.
And then it's the real tap dance for dinner. Nothing sucks worse than having a shop and nobody comes in all day and you haven't sold anything, but that rent and light bill and internet bill is still coming. So
no, you put that out in that shed.
Put it in the shed. Just have come in. It's in the back. Just go in the back and get what you need. So that's I would love to, but then it turns into a job, if you will.
Yeah, but it's a bee job instead of bug job.
Yeah, they're both bug job.
The other thing is whether your bug job has benefits.
Yeah. So yeah, like this right here. We had this comment. We talked about this on one of these streams. Seems like you already pay all those, Bob. I do pay for them here, but I'd have to pay for them again over there, right? A different location. But as far as like the website, yeah, it makes some money, but I usually reinvest that money in like, okay, so I made money with the tabs. What did I do? I bought more tablets, right? So now that money's gone again, right? Or now I've got to reorder Apis. Now I got to order that again. So it's not like it's just building up in the bank and I'm Scrooge McDuck over here at night counting my gold shillings, you know, my loonies over in the corner. You know, it doesn't work like that. Open a drive-through, order Monday through Friday, pick up on Saturday. That's how Bohemia Bees does it. It's a pickup only thing. I mean, you could do it online.
You don't like people coming to the house?
I don't mind people coming to my house.
I'd have a shed out there.
I've got firearms. And my ammo's not in separate rooms. And it's not against the law to blast somebody in my house if they're in the wrong spot. So, but yeah, it's something I would like to do one day, but I have to have it to where something pays for that and that pays for something, right? So right now, you look at it this way. I sold the tablets. What I made off the tablets allowed me to reinvest that money to buy more tablets, and it also paid for my total sugar syrup, right? So, boomsticks and freedom seeds. There you go. But so I mean that's pretty much everything. Like allows me to use the marking pens. It allows me to use tablets. It allows me to use Apis at a discount for myself.
So how are you doing with the marking pens? That situation.
You know what I did? Pretty much the same thing I did with old big swarm lure company, right? Is I stopped answering them, and I said, well, if it's true that you complained to Amazon, then Amazon will contact me and tell me I need to take them down. Otherwise, I'm just going to leave them go, right? Why are you contacting me through the buyer message box telling me to do something? I don't know you, never heard of you. You could just be wanting me to take it down. So
That's what it sounded like to me.
So I'm like, yeah, it's going to stay there, whatever. Oh, you can sell it. You just can't sell it on Amazon. I've been selling it for 6 months on Amazon. Now all of a sudden you see I'm selling some. Now it's a problem if it's you. No. So, I mean, I'm not selling a ton of queen marking pins this time of year, but I've got over 100 sets of them here right now. So if you need marking pins, your boys got them. That's for sure. I got a case of them over there.
That's a good marking pen. That's my new favorite.
Yeah, they do work pretty well if they're not smashed when you go to use them.
Yeah, don't drive over them.
That was one somebody sent back to me, and they all look like this. I'm like, oh, that's weird. They weren't like that when I sent them out, but now they're all dented. It's like someone punched the pack or something, you know. But yeah, so I was like, oh, you know what? I'll just grab that one and I'll use that red. And I hit it, and it just went out of the bottom. I was like, well, that sucks.
It's probably under pressure because of that dent.
Yeah, probably. And but the queen's still in there living. So.
Well,
you always have to test them, no matter what.
I'm sorry. What'd you say?
Brad.
Which one?
What'd you say, Brad? Because you and Alex kind of.
I said you always have to test those no matter what they are, the Posca pens or the competitive advantage. You always have to test them before you touch your queen because they can flood some ink out of there.
I did, and then when I touched her, it just went. I didn't even like press to like get more out. I just touched it, and then it was all just like what was there just went. Yeah.
And that's a good point. I think a lot of people don't get that. Is that nib when you press it, the nib retracts, and that allows the ink the paint to flow out.
Right.
And people say, oh, those flood paint on the queen. Well, you don't push on the nib to let the paint come out when you're marking the queen. You
do it ahead of time.
Get a little bit of paint.
Then you just
you mark it on the lid of your box a little bit and get it so that it's just the right combination of wet and dry, and then you touch your queen. Not, you don't start mashing your queen and making the paint flow out of the pen all over your queen. And I mean, I've had not done it right and ended up with too much paint and ended up with too much paint on the queen. So you just have to be really careful.
Right. And that was the first time this year I've had that accident. Everything else has a nice little pretty, and it's amazing. Even with her whole back and half of her neck and part of her abdomen all have paint on them, and she can still hide from you, which is amazing to me. I had to go through that box 3 times to find her last time, and then finally found her.
Well, that red ain't that easy to see, though. Not as well as the white and the yellow.
Yeah, I'm trying to be, a purist and mark them with the year so I know how old they are eventually. That's the only reason I try to stay on color. And before this year, I really wasn't too interested in marking them, kind of like Charlie. And then they're like, James said, "Well, how old's your queen?" Hell, I don't know. Now I know if she's marked and I come back and there's an unmarked queen that they superseded her. Some other stuff. Todd, did you even go to your bee yard today?
No, I was stuck at work. I have nothing to do.
Hey, Todd, look, Ford.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
You buy Japanese. I can't talk to you.
My condolences.
Toyota.
But your truck will probably be around longer than mine will be.
And still worth more.
I don't know. I think mine started out a little bit higher than yours did, though.
Just a tad bit.
A little bit. A little bit.
God help you if your air conditioner breaks down.
What, in the Toyota? Or in
Your air
the...
conditioner's worth more than the truck.
I just asked James. That's why he's driving airless.
Yeah, in some cases.
Well, you guys are just a barrel of laughs tonight. Look at Charlie sitting
Sorry,
back,
buddy.
watching the screen. Alex just sitting there reading the chat box. Todd sitting there.
No bee
eating
stuff to
donuts
talk
and
about. Just extracting. No
I sold
fun.
2
It's been
bottles of
raining
honey
here
today.
quite a bit. You sold 2 pounds of honey.
No,
Wow.
2 pounds of honey just now.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's only so many times I can say I filled some buckets with syrup. I mean, I can
Well,
repeat
Bob said
myself.
that about 10 times today.
Yeah,
Carry in the conversation, right?
That's it. DC said he
No,
looked
it's all
out at
good.
his today and added some Gorilla Tape to close up the vents. What I find is they'll close the vents up when it gets too much air. They'll just close them up themselves with propolis, right? But I don't live in the Great White North like you guys do either, so
Yeah.
So it might be a different thing.
I think our bees open up vents there, Bob.
Yeah, they will. I mean, now all of them got air. They have to have airflow coming in from the bottom. There's no way around it.
It's not much, believe it or not.
Let me see. They all want to discuss M's, but you won't let them.
Yeah.
We can talk about.
So extracting conversation. That's all I've got right now. That Max and Senior spinner that I got this year, and I've been using that. I think that's actually working out. The thing is not perfect by any means, but it still does a pretty good job. Gets the wax pretty dry. I have to drag it out every morning and clean it out, and I get about just more than a 5-gallon pail of wax out of it every day. But it's pretty dry wax. I'm pretty happy with that.
And that's 5 gallons of cappings wax, like little pieces, right? Or is it big chunks too?
I kind of pack it in there, so there's a lot. Like, I don't just drop it in the pail. I have a little tool that I jam it into the pail and consolidate it in there, because I have way too many pails of it. Like, I got 12 or 13 pails of wax now, so it has to wait until I'm done straining honey, and then it goes into the melter and gets melted down. But yeah, it's working out pretty good. There's once in a while it gets a bit off balance, but it'll rock and roll for a little while, and usually it straightens out. I think the honey, when there's a bunch of honey goes into it, it kind of gets out of balance because the honey is pretty heavy, and then once the honey gets spun out past the wax, then things settle down.
Well, what is your chief complaint with it?
Chief complaint?
Yeah, like if you're like, why? I mean, we talked about the little window before. when you first got it, but you since modified it. But what's the chief thing that you're like, why the hell did y'all do this?
Well, I haven't I haven't modified it very much for what I need, and it doesn't suit what I need perfectly yet because I've got it underneath my cow and uncapper, and it's not made for that. So the hole in the top of the thing is not the right size, and I have to keep scraping the wax off the lid in down the hole, and there's honey everywhere. And I also don't have a proper sump for it. So that's one thing I really want to make a priority for this winter is to get a little sump made and a pump. I already have a float valve, a float switch for it to
Right.
turn the pump on and get that pumped out automatically because it produces a lot of honey. It'll produce, I don't know how big that tray is that I've got there. That's probably 3 or 4 gallons. And I'll take that, like I'm just draining it into a tray and then I dump the tray into the extractor. I'll empty that tray twice for every 33 frames that go through my extractor. There's a lot of honey goes through that spinner. So that really has to change. I have to modify the lid a bit to make the wax go down into it better. And then I need a better exit strategy, as it were, for the honey. And then, I mean, the biggest pain is there's nothing you're going to do about it. Every morning I have to pull it out from under the uncapper and take the lid off and then dig the wax out of it, put it in pails and slide it back in there. And, you know, that's not such a bad job, but the machine is really heavy. So it's difficult to slide around. I think I'm going to have to put some retractable wheels on my uncapper. So instead of moving the spinner, I just click the wheels up and move the uncapper to the side.
Right.
Because of the potential unbalanced situation in the spinner, I think I want to bolt it to the floor.
That's what I
Hold
do
it
with
down
mine.
nice and tight. Yeah. Do you have the senior Maxent?
No, I just have a hand spinner.
No, he's talking about the cappings. The cappings.
Oh, I don't have a decapper. I just have a hand capper. Me.
Oh yeah. Oh, you mean your extractor?
Yeah, I have to.
Yeah,
I have
bolt
to
your extractor
put that
down.
down.
Yeah, I bolted my extractor down definitely because it was definitely it's
So
rocking and rolling.
how bad is it to, you got that wax that's all the way around the outer edge of that drum, and I guess it's packed on there pretty tight. I mean, you clean it once a day?
Yeah.
You say?
Yeah.
And what's it, like a couple inches thick or more?
It's thicker at the bottom, of course. It'll be maybe 2 inches at the bottom, and then I don't even know how tall that basket is, but it's a pretty deep basket. It's probably, I don't know, is it 20 inches, 24 inches? And it'll come up within 4 to 6 inches of the top, and it just kind of tapers off to nothing as you get higher. Most of the wax will accumulate at the bottom for the most part. Because I think what happens is as it's spinning, when the wax and the honey goes in it, I think the honey tends to come up and then make its way through the perforated basket. So that's why I think the wax over time, as you use it, it kind of feathers and it tapers to nothing as it gets closer to the top. So yeah, I just have a stainless steel scraper. It's not super packed in there, but I just scrape it off that mesh with that stainless steel scraper thing. Comes out of there pretty easy. You want to make sure you don't scrape your knuckles on that screen, though. I learned that the hard way.
Like a cheese grater.
Yeah, a little bit. Like it's not really meant to be sharp, but it's just a punched screen, eh? It's a punched piece of stainless. It's not a screen. It's a perforated piece of metal. So
Do
the
you
edges of it.
use, I know that, what's the name up there? Man Lake or Max Ant told him to put like a window screen in there, to better filter
They
it.
send a window screen with it. Yeah. And I used that for the first round, basically. And I just felt that it could do a better job of letting the honey and whatnot through. So I never used it again. And it's just one more bother to put this screen in every time.
Mhm.
Now the honey that comes out of it does have a little bit of wax in it, but not much, very little. The fact that I'm going from there into a settling tank means that much wax is not an issue at all. So yeah, I haven't used that window screen but once, and it's working great for me. I guess with the window screen, you don't need to scrape it off the basket. You can just kind of pull the screen away and it comes off. But it's not like it's difficult at all.
Mm.
It's not packed in there too hard.
Well, guys, my phone is about dead.
All right, Chris. We'll talk to you later, buddy.
Okay.
I'll be in the chat, but
Yeah.
All right.
Have a good evening.
Chris.
So it's a big piece of change for that unit. I got it secondhand. A 20 frame max and extractors, a meat cutter. Okay. That's supposed to shove your hands in it while it's running.
It's
I guess that wasn't in the manual.
Yeah, it's got all those metal ridges that you put the frames into, right?
Oh, okay. It's the shredder.
Yeah, it's a shredder.
Yeah, you got to keep your hands out of it for sure. This spinner, it has those blades in it. It has 2 sets of 4 blades, so it's got 8 blades that spin around inside too. And boy, when you get it going, you look at those blades going. It's a little scary looking.
But it gets the job done. That's the important thing.
Yeah, I think it definitely was worthwhile picking up.
Well, didn't you say you were getting an unboxer made or bought one or something?
I actually bought a deboxer, an old Cowan deboxer. It'll be set up for next year. I didn't have it just kind of came up, so it was kind of too late for me to install it. I'll install that for next year. Yeah, it's got an air cylinder, air operated unit, so that'll help a little bit. It's got the deboxer, and then on the side, it's got a little track where you put the boxes. So I can lift the boxes and then put them there, and then slide them into the deboxer, and it lifts them up into the uncapper.
Yeah, it's like Ian there. They had that sinkhole underneath those rollers, so they could scrape all the wax off the capping or the tops of the frames and get rid of all the trash.
Yeah. This is very short. This track, it's only really just for one box, because this deboxer is a little different than a lot of them you see. A lot of them you see, like Ian's, it just has arms that stick out. Well, this one actually has a full plate. When you push the box in, it's kind of right inside something. It's kind of enclosed.
It's in like a box.
Then because where you're standing, like if I'm standing there, there's a stainless plate right there between me and the box, and I hit the pedal and the box comes up and the frames sit on the rails on the top.
Right.
And then the box gets lowered down and they're sitting there, right?
Yeah, and I guess the box goes out the same way it came in, I suppose. So, and Ian made a new crane thing. You've seen that crane in his honey house that they use for lifting the boxes off of the skid onto that little track thing. So he made a new one. It's really, really nice. And so I'm going to buy the old one from him. It's got the air cylinder and the post and stuff. I have to get my own cradle, though. He's using the cradle still. So hopefully I can make that work in my honey house. to get the boxes up onto the deboxer, because I'm lifting deeps these days, and that's just no good. My
Well, that's
back is so
100
sore.
pounds right there, at least.
Wasn't that post he
No,
had
they're not.
pretty tall?
No, they're not. They're not 100 pounds. People say they're 100 pounds. They're not 100 pounds. They're maybe 50 to 60.
They feel like 100 pounds after you've done them all day long.
Well, the worst part of them is the finger holes, because you're carrying with your fingertips, right?
Right.
That's the hard part. If you can get your hands under them, they're not really that hard to carry around. What did you say, Todd?
I remember seeing a picture of that crane he had in his shop. It seemed like it was pretty tall. I know it might have been mounted next to the deboxer, not on the floor, but
Yeah, it is. It was mounted between the floor and the ceiling, I think.
Hmm.
I don't remember if it was attached to the ceiling. I think it was.
Double rails.
And he's a 12-foot ceiling, and I only have an 8-foot ceiling. So that's what I'm saying. It might take me a little bit to make it work in my honey house, because I've only got an 8-foot ceiling in there. But where there's a will, there's a way, right?
Oh yeah. No, you'll make it work. That'd be a nice addition too.
Yeah. Well, and it just kind of one of those things that future proofs my system, because every year, for some reason, every year I get a year older. It's like it's been happening for a long time,
Weird.
and I don't get it. But when when you get up in enough years, every year makes a big difference to what you really can handle. And if I'm going to do this for very many more years, I need a lot more automation and a lot more machinery to do a lot less. Like this, I was saying, the tray that I'm using to catch the honey out of the spinner. Well, I'm lifting that into the extractor every time. That's heavy. That's a lot of lifting. I'm lifting, probably almost half of the honey. So here I'm lifting about 5,000 pounds of honey over 3 weeks into my extractor by hand, after I've lifted the deep box onto the up to the uncapper, and then I lift the frames again onto the uncapper, because I don't have my deboxer, and then I lift the frames again from the uncapper into the extractor. And so, there's 3 times now.
Right.
So I need a little help, I think. Some of it I don't think I can avoid, but getting the sump set up for the outlet of the spinner, I think, is key. That's a big pain. I was saying just today, talking to myself in the honey house, saying, if nothing in here changes for next year, this has got to change. It's my biggest pain point right now, is that drain on that spinner, because it's just a constant lift that honey up and pour it in the extractor.
Well,
it's kind of amazing that, at your level where, our I'll say bottlenecks, first it's, a hand extractor goes to electric extractor, go to from 18 to 20 frames to 30 frames. And you have your uncapping tank. And then when you get at your level, you have the automatic uncapping machine. And now we have to have an unboxer, which is a sort of a bottleneck or a labor saver. And then you have your bigger extractor, but then like you say, now we got to get the honey out of the extractor fast enough in order to do something with it, either strain it or put it in a holding tank of some sort. And you still have bottlenecks, even though you're at a greater production. You just have different types of bottlenecks, whether it be
absolutely
the baffle tank and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I was just talking to my wife tonight about that. I on the marketplace, I happened across somebody locally selling a 60 frame cow and line, just exactly what Ian uses. If you can picture, because
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody's seen Ian's honey house pictures, videos. And I showed her this, and I said, this is a pretty good price for this kind of thing. And I said, I am not considering buying this. Don't worry, because I said, I posed the question to her. I said, what's my bottleneck? What paces my entire extracting process? And she said, straining honey into those pails. That's what sets the pace. So I could spend $500,000 on a new extracting line that's not going to speed things up 1 second, because I still have to strain the honey into the pail. Until I solve that problem, until I do something with that and make that bottleneck less of a bottleneck, or speed that process up, or eliminate it altogether, then a different bottleneck will appear, and that'll pace. Anytime you talk
Well,
about this with
that
Ian,
there thing
he'll say,
that
he'll say, my uncapper paces my entire honey house. The uncapper is the pace for the honey house. It's the one thing that you can't go faster than it, and you can't outwork it. It'll pace the whole place.
well, like that spin float that Ian has, does that the honey that it puts out, is it clean, or is it still need to be
clean.
filled?
It is about as clean as you can get. Yeah, it's very clean. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's basically, think of that spin float. It works on exactly the same principle as you, if you pour your honey into a gated pail and you let it sit overnight so it settles off, and then you can pail off nice clean honey at the bottom. That's
Mhm.
exactly what that spin float does, in a continuous feed process very quickly. So a high volume, continuous feed process. It's just a settling tank. Um, but it's done in such a way that it's not a batch, where a tank is a batch system. It's a continuous flow system, and it's high volume, so it can take everything the extractor can put out. Is exactly what that spin float does, because
The
it just
spin float
turns.
is the machine that has it spins and it has razor blades that shaves the
Yeah, it does
the wax.
include that blade thing that you're talking about. Yeah. Um, so if you're not familiar with the spin float, it's kind of like a drum,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
and
Yes.
It's a big
it
centrifuge.
spins extremely fast, and it takes, if you can picture your settling, because almost everybody here, whatever level you're extracting, you can picture a settling tank. Whether it's a 5-gallon pail with a gate on the bottom, that's a settling tank. So if you take that settling tank, that 5-gallon pail, and you turn it on its side, and instead of using gravity to make your wax float and your honey to sink, you're using centrifugal force. So you're running this now on its side, going around in a circle. And so now you can amplify the difference in the specific gravity between the honey and the wax. So now what happens is the honey is forced to the outside more, and the wax is forced to the inside more, because the differential between the specific gravity of those two products is amplified that much more. And so that's
Then the
why you
spinning
can do
blades
it.
just shave off the excess wax and you
Yeah, the
clean it
spinning
up.
blade, the blade it just makes sure there's not, when there's enough wax built up, then it just takes it off and it falls out. It really doesn't have anything to do with the separation process.
No, no,
So
no.
that's
But
what that
that's
spin
like
float
kind
does.
of a point of reference.
Yeah, it has that blade in it. So mine doesn't have a blade like that. Mine is just like a clothes washer or an extractor. It's a lot like an extractor. So yeah, so that spin float's a nifty thing. It's a heap loads of money, big time money.
How much is it?
So
I haven't looked it up.
$6,000.
I don't know, what are they?
Was it
6 or way more than 6, my friend.
max ant?
Like 20.
Well,
Well,
see,
look,
the
I
spin
don't know
float,
if you'll
you're
find
saying
it, but
the spin float,
spin
not
float,
the
not, yeah, No, yeah, the spinner that I'm using is $6,000 US. But a spin float, you're looking at Cook and Beals is who makes those.
Continuous.
That's the name. Yeah.
Cooks and Beal, I think that's what 50-some thousand just for that.
So a continuous wax
Yeah, I know,
spinner
sure,
from
quite that much.
Maxband is 13,000 continuous spin through.
Yeah, that one's a little bit different. It's a little different than the Cook and Beals, but yeah, that's 13. I think the Cook and Beals is 15 or 20 or something. They're big money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see that in my future. Nowhere in my future.
Yeah, but it also, from what I can see of Ian's, is the fact that not only you have to have the Cooks and Beal, and then of course you got your extraction line, but then you have to pump that slurry through a heating element in order to make it flow
Cook
right.
and Beals needs a heat exchanger. It needs the heat exchanger. Yes, you're right, because you need that viscosity, that specific viscosity in that spin float. So, and it's important. That's the name, spin float. Spinner is, what the Maxent
you
thing
have.
is. What I have, spin float is what the Cook and Beals, because it's got that different principle of using centrifugal force to multiply the differential in specific gravity between the two products, and it works really well. Everybody would love to have one, but so you're right, Charlie. That I'm doing exactly the same thing everybody here is doing, but when you need to do it, first of all, I don't have a crew of people, right? I have my wife part-time to come and pale the honey generally. Otherwise, I have to pale it, and I really hate doing that. She kind of really likes the process, so I say, okay, you could pale the honey. That's great. Otherwise, it's throughput. I've got X number of pounds of honey. I've only got one person. I don't have all winter to do it because even my honey is going to granulate in the comb over time, so I have to get it spun out. My system is, I think, barely fast enough because it takes me 3 weeks or more, and that's with life happening too, because I've got to feed the bees, and again, that's because I'm one person. I have to feed the bees, I have to treat the bees, I have to, all this and this and this and this and this. Continue to run my business, do my deliveries, pack honey, run around, put up with equipment breakdowns. So it typically takes me at least 3 weeks to extract, but I get away with it. If I had a smaller extractor or a bigger bottleneck and it was slower, then maybe I'd have to solve that. As it is right now, the timeline it takes me to extract is acceptable. Do I wish I could do it in 3 days? Yeah, I do, because I really hate it right now. It's really, it gets so tedious, and I just work hour upon hour in a windowless building. But yeah, it's just volume. And when you start to get volume, then you have to start looking at things to deboxers and uncappers and sumps. I don't want to lift all of that into my settling tank. Like if you have a smaller volume, yeah, you can lift a pail of honey and pour it into a settling tank. I can't do that. That's 10,000 pounds of honey I'm lifting again. So I have to have a pump. If I have a pump, I need to have a clarifier so my pump doesn't gum up. So I got a whole bunch more expensive stuff going on in there. So just kind of, goes on and on.
Well, if you take a look at, for let's say Ian's his setup as an example, does he have a bottleneck in that rig that he's got? Complete rig.
Well, bottleneck is kind of the negative term, I suppose, a person can use. He doesn't call it a bottleneck, but you always have a bottleneck in a system. There's one thing that's always going to pace the entire system, and his is the uncapper. The uncapper is the pace, because they will feed that uncapper as fast as it'll go, and they will cycle the extractor as fast as the uncapper will allow. So it's the uncapper that paces the entire honey house. So you could pretty much set your watch if you can count up in the hot room how many boxes you have to extract, and you know exactly how many frames that uncapper will do in an hour. You could probably set your watch by how long it's going to take you to extract that hot room full of honey, because
And
it's the uncapper that's going to
the only
pace
way
it,
he
and
could
it clicks
even
like
the only way he could even speed that up then is to double his extraction room, right? Another line. And
Yeah,
run
but
it.
that
No, he would go
another
from
bottleneck.
yeah,
he'd
another
have-
line.
Well, not really. He could expand his extractor to 120 frames.
But the
Right.
uncapper can't produce it any faster, right? You could, but then that big extractor would be sitting still a lot longer. His 60 frame doesn't sit still, right? His 60 frame will take frames as fast as that uncapper will spit them out.
All right, how many minutes do you figure
And,
that it takes for his extractor to extract? 15
minutes.
minutes? Huh?
8.
8 minutes?
Yeah.
All right, so he can uncap 60 frames in 8 minutes, I presume.
Yeah. He
Sooner than that,
you could say
because
approximately.
he's got them lined up when he's got the load in the extractor. They're already going through the next round, so he could get.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying is that if you keep that constant, that thing's got an automatic feed too, I think. But if you are constantly feeding the uncapping machine, I would think that the uncapper would uncap more frames than what the extractor could do spin. He
Probably have more like 10 minutes because you've got cycle time on the extractor. You've got load and unload time on the extractor. Now it doesn't take them long. I've seen them do it, and it doesn't take them long.
Well, you
to
figure
load and unload
loading
that
when he's
extractor.
loading, he's pushing 60. He's pushing 30 frames out and 30 frames are in.
Right.
And
Right.
then he's flipping
So
it, and then there's another set of 30 that you got to sit there and whine as that's an older machine because the new ones are all air operated. That would go back.
well,
to
it's not that it's an older
automatically
machine. It's whether you decide to have a crank or an air cylinder.
Mhm.
It's nothing to do with age. Honestly, I like the crank idea. Crank things break down a whole lot less than air cylinders and hydraulics.
And it's cheaper.
But yeah, I don't think the uncapper overruns that extractor very easily. I think the second group of 30 going into the extractor, the operator might have to pause a moment to wait for the uncapper to get some more work done. See, that uncapper never stops. So if the uncapper was working faster than the extractor, then the uncapper would stop because there's a limit switch, right? It goes straight to the end, and there's a limit switch. So if it pushes those frames right to the end, then it stops. But it never
As
stops.
soon as they move them in, then all of a sudden it starts running again.
Yeah. So, I'm saying that when they slide the first group of 30 into the extractor, I don't think there's 30 sitting there waiting. There might be 28 or 29 or something like that, but it's just keeping up kind of thing. So if you say 60 frames in 10 minutes, that's 360 frames an hour. So that's about 360 frames an hour in that uncapper is what it's doing. Because that's what he'll say that it
Longman says
that it yeah there's Doug right there, 60 frames every 10 minutes exactly. That's what he says. So I guess, Doug, that's 10 minutes includes load and unload. So spin time, like Ian was saying, spin time about 8 minutes or so, I would assume.
Right on cue,
Yeah,
Bob.
there's the said uncapper.
Well, that's the deboxer.
Yeah, the deboxer, and then
Right.
So like, oh no, it's working. I was about to say. So right now it looks like it's not moving, but it is.
So if he shows
so
that
you watch
line,
how many frames are sitting around in that tray ready to go into the extractor. Not that
Yeah,
many.
I have to agree with you. If you watch those, look how long it takes that frame to go down and through the knives and stuff. It ain't speeding through there.
No, it's not super fast.
plus it depends on how many frames have to be scraped like that with the
Well, kind of, but it that doesn't
It's
slow
not
down
stopping
the
the
uncapper.
flow though, right?
well,
It's
that's true.
going-
Yeah.
No.
So
Let's
it's
see now. That's
2/3
there's
full.
a few. That's how you scratch a frame. None of this pick thing.
Just tear it apart. Let it go.
Well, you're not tearing it apart either. It's a touch. You can scrape that off there pretty easily. So that's the big heat exchanger up in the top.
Those aren't cheap either.
No.
The whole
So the
Well,
heat
you know,
exchanger's role is to keep
with
the
that
honey
temperature
flowing.
gauge areas. Now, see, that's what I understand. Where's is the outside of what you just showed there? Is that where the
Can you roll that
honey
back
is
a little bit,
coming
Bob?
out?
Yeah, sure. To where?
So if
Where
you
he's
look
right
in,
there.
can you
That's
pause it?
The honey
Pause it when
temp,
he
and that's
opens the
milk
lid,
temp.
Bob.
All right, so it's not that hot then. 89 degrees.
Okay.
Right there.
Pause
Stop.
it right here.
All right, now you got
Okay, so the drum is on the inside there. And then there's a space.
And the drum has holes perforated in it. Up and
Not
down.
holes. It has a little channel in the bottom that the honey
Oh,
comes
okay.
out of. Yeah, it's a solid drum with a little channel
So
in the bottom.
the space that's in there, right where you see, but from the outside wall and that drum, is that where the honey flows?
Yes, the honey comes out of there. They're kind of, you can't see them because it's spinning, but they're kind of little tubes. They're little flat tubes that come out of there, and they spray the honey out into that outer
Chamber.
outer drum thing, and then it goes down and into the pump that goes up into the tank. So the wax is all inside that inner drum that's spinning.
See what Blaine said? Pretty good equipment for a hobby beekeeper, but I like to see how the pros do it. Kidding, I'm kidding, man. That's the sweet setup.
That's a pretty sweet setup. It's a very nice honey house.
And
that's pretty much standard for any of the bigger operators. That Cook and Beal's spinner, that's standard.
So what's happening down here?
That's where the wax
That's
is
where the
falling
wax
out.
drops out.
Yeah, the knives I kept talking about earlier, that they send it the excess wax there.
Yeah, as the wax builds up, then that knife that Alex talks about is just kind of knocking that wax off, and it drops out the bottom. And it's pretty dry. There's not really anything in it.
That's a settling tank, right?
And then they scoop
Wax
it by
melter.
hand into the melter. They're melting the wax
Okay.
as a batch as they go.
That's what you have, don't you, Brad?
That's the same melter I have, yeah.
Well, didn't you have it before Ian?
No, he got his, and then because I saw what he could do with it, I realized that I could justify the expense. That's an expensive unit.
Oh, sorry, commercial.
Thanks, buddy.
We have to give Ian his watch time there on his.
So that thing's got that metal post up the middle where it's heated, right? So it heats the core on the outside wall also.
What's that?
Well, on that melter, it's
That's
got
his
that
steamer.
post up the center.
That's the steamer.
Oh yeah,
Like
the
running
melter.
this
It's got,
melter.
yeah, it's got a center core in it that is part of the jacket. Yeah.
So he just turned up the speed on the extractor, is what he did when he walked back there. I guess.
No, that's a steamer.
So that extractor has a steamer on it because that's where the control was on the backside of that, right there.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was the steamer. His frames come out dry. There's no sticky on them at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Because it's got a heated.
Because
It's heated somehow
he blows a little bit of steam in the back.
inside the
And that just-
extractor.
Heats it
Yep.
up just a little bit.
Yeah, blow some steam in there and that just takes the residue right off. Helps with that canola granulation. Loosens that because it's so dry, that honey.
So
I see you have those conveyor rollers mounted on the wall to the left of this picture, so you could take that. Oh wait, that's how are they refilling those boxes? Are they filling? They're filling them at the end here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've seen.
They don't
some-
have a roller conveyor. They
I-
don't have a roller conveyor. See, she's carrying them.
Yeah, see on the right-hand wall right there, I've seen it where they have that conveyor attached to the wall at an angle, so that person puts it on the top or on that, and then it slides down, and someone else at the
Yeah.
end of it grabs it and fills it.
I've always wondered why he doesn't have a conveyor, but they just carry them, which is kind of weird, I think. But I don't know. He's likely got a reason he doesn't have one.
He has 5 kids.
So you see
Yeah,
him
yeah.
slide that in there,
Yes, 5
and
kids.
look at how many frames are in the tray now.
Yep.
There's like 4, or maybe not even. So he's kind of waiting on that uncapper, right?
So if that guy's got 8 minutes, or there's 8 minutes of spin time, and whatever they fill up, they've got one carriage done, probably half the other
Yeah.
one. Maybe.
See how many frames there are in there?
Yeah.
There's like 5. So they're waiting on that uncapper all the time, right? It paces the whole place.
And I presume there's no real fast uncapping machine out there.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything that'll go any faster.
Now you got that.
but look at all the
Got
honey.
that auger in the bottom down there,
It's
stirring
full
that
of
stuff
honey down
up. He must have some
Yeah.
what kind of a pump has he got to pump that slurry out?
Well, you can see it right there.
Yeah, like what's that? A 5-inch line.
That's the pump right there. That's a big ass pump. And see all the stuff going up the hose,
Mhm.
yeah, wax and everything.
and that's what's heading to the spinner, the spin float. That's exactly what's going into the spin float.
They got the
He
auger.
made that.
Oh,
He
he made
made those paddles.
Nice.
Yeah. Just to mix it all up.
Now you got that steel. Is the honey coming out of the extractor back to that tank, and then through the pump?
I think it's an auger pump that comes from the extractor into that tank.
So it's actually augering the honey out of the extractor back to that
Yep.
tank, and then out to that pump, and then all the way around to this area here.
And then the spin float. Yep.
And then it gets pumped up into a holding tank.
The heat exchanger's purpose is to keep the honey liquid enough, right?
Yeah, you need to have the viscosity appropriate for the spin float. So you can kind of see at the bottom those fins, those tubes. There's a flat tube at the bottom.
I thought they were
Kinda see them going
blades.
around
Is that what
Yeah,
they
they're not
are? You
blades.
see them
No, they're
sticking out
tubes.
at
Yeah.
the outer edge about that
Tubes.
what? So they're tubes. They're
Yeah,
not
they're tubes.
blades.
Yeah. There's Carrie blowing the bees out.
I'm surprised they don't scrape. I haven't seen anybody like scraping top bars or anything like that, but I'm sure they are.
I think she's gonna do that.
Well, they do look
Well,
clean.
they're scraped. They're scraped right there. Those are the empties.
Yeah, they scrape it just before the deboxer. And those are dry. Those are dry as your bees would lick them dry.
How many people does he have in there right now? 1, 2. Probably going to be hard to count.
I think there's 4. I think there's 4.
4, yeah, 4. 3 or 4.
I think that's his boy and his 2 daughters and Carrie. Or maybe there's one daughter.
Yeah, looks
This is a different day.
Was she scared of the bees?
I guess there's too many bees around. So she's got to keep up with that thing.
If you don't keep it fed, it makes a slower system even slower. Well, I mean, it's a fast system, but I mean, if that's your bottleneck, right? You got to keep that full.
Yeah. That old planer I used to feed growing up, Charlie. Boy, I'd feed that planer all afternoon, all day long. I'd feed that planer. And you had to have those planks end to end when they went in there. Because if there was a half-inch gap, Dad could hear that. when that one plank left the planer, left the head, and the next one wasn't quite there, he could hear that gap. And then right away he'd be looking at you to see what's going on over there. How come it's not,
Well, that videos that you viewed, 10 years ago of that old planer at the Steam show, it says it's a matcher. What was it? It looked like to me it was a 4-sided planer where you could tongue and groove or something.
Yeah. I think the matcher name is that you can match the tongue and the groove on each side of the lumber. You can match the 2 sides to work together. I think that's what it is.
So what's he adjusting there?
He's adjusting that knife.
That knife, yeah. You bring that knife a little closer.
Shave it off the bottom.
Yeah.
This makes the wax, the thickness of the wax around that drum a little thinner. So that's what those are. Those flat bars are not knives; they're tubes.
No, so you can see the honey running down.
Yeah, now
those are spitting out that honey, and you can see it running down the wall. Yeah.
Because when he was always cleaning that thing, he had them flat things, and I thought they were knives.
Yeah.
I never finally realized how that works. I never could get it until I just saw that.
I never got it for the longest time, and then and nobody could really explain it to me. And I thought about it, and I said, okay,
see, he's pulling it out
right
now.
Doing.
He's emptying the extractor, and the table is already full behind him.
Yeah. One goes out.
He's probably got it. He'll have a cue to see how many. Okay, the thing that sets the speed is usually the person scratching the frames. The uncapper misses. Yeah,
he's close. He's probably 10 frames away. Probably another box or so.
Well, how many he's going to get?
More in the box, I think.
Look at this. He's got
0.
That's
it right there. Not enough. Okay.
That's it.
And now the process starts over.
So how many's in the table now? There doesn't seem to be more than 3 or 4 frames in there.
So not much of a margin of error there.
No.
So it's not fast enough for him to justify a bigger extractor. He'd be better probably running, if he had the people to run 2 lines. And that would cut the time down.
But he can cycle it, right? He can cycle it in an acceptable time period. He can get the honey, the honey that he produces in and extracted in an acceptable time.
How much honey does that drum hold? That big barrel?
I don't know how much that holds.
Oh, okay, Ian, we're paying you tonight.
500
Here's a
gallons.
few hundredths of a penny.
Oh,
What's that?
That was it. So
Yeah.
But I think
Well,
the
that was
title
fun.
of that video was 300,000 pounds of honey or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a.
That was
Oh, no, that
fire.
was Honey House Morning Startup. So now she's scratching these, the tops of the boxes. I mean, she just leaves that comb right on top there. That wax. She doesn't like it. She's not taking.
There's a trash can or whatever you want to call it underneath that roll.
Is there?
I think that's.
If you look at that one, there
I
had
think
like a
that's
black.
for stray bees. Yeah, I think she's blowing the bees down into that. I don't know if that's where the comb goes, and they've changed their system a little bit since then. I think they have now. I really hate speaking for other people.
I
think
seen
they
the
have
one
now
video. It looked like to me they had a
hopper.
regular stainless steel slump in there
They
to catch
do.
the wax.
I think they have a hopper now, which the wax goes into, and he has that extruder, that thing that makes curly fries,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where the scrapings go into that thing.
Ooh,
So
curly
I'm
fries.
not sure he's still doing that. Curly fries. Curly fries.
So yeah, it's interesting stuff. Last week we did a Beekenomics challenge. We took a 10-pound block we got for $76, including shipping, and turned it into candles. I probably got 10 pounds of wax in my wax melter in there that I'm going to use the re-wax frames foundations. $422. Yeah, that's pretty good. 4x. No, that's more than 4x.
Minus the cost of those expensive silicone molds.
Yeah, those are pricey. They're good ones, at least.
But let's see here.
Well, that was fun.
That was fun. I like that. We were able to watch one of Ian's videos in the meanwhile.
So the things that I'm not doing that are happening there is my extractor doesn't feed right off of my encapper. Like I frame by frame because I'm using a radial, and I'm only using a 33 frame radial. It's not that big, right? You're Bob? You've got a 20 frame.
30. I got a 30.
You got a 30 frame. You got a 30 frame extractor. I have a 33 frame extractor. It's it's just kind of, but again, as slow as it is, and as long as it takes me to load and unload that extractor, it's currently not my bottleneck. So I could go out and buy that extracting line that Ian has, and it would not speed me up at all because that's not my bottleneck. I need a better system for getting my honey strained and in the pail if I want to speed things up.
Would a second sump, so like you drain out of the one sump into another sump and then pump it off?
No.
Well, there he is.
No, because hey.
That's what I forgot to do. I'll be right back.
We just watched one of your videos, Ian.
You should come on here because I've been speaking for you, so I've told all the wrong stuff. So you need to come on
like,
here and set
no,
the
that's
record
not
straight.
Of course, there's a 10-second lag there. Look, always two. Charlie's up. Oh shoot! I'll have to rewind, right? So we were basically discussing your bottleneck in your system, or lack thereof. There he is. He's got his beer. He's back. Of course, we can't see him. Kind of like my videos and tripod. The tripod fund.
Yeah, my bottleneck was uncapping. The hot knife helped a lot, but it's still at that level. But I'm still at. There's no way I could improve this with the room I have right now. Eventually, I'll try and address that. Well, it's not too bad since I only had 10 production hives this year.
I don't think so. I'm just faking it, man. I told him all the wrong stuff.
Well, you know the saying, fake it till you make it.
That's my life, man.
Exactly. That's what we all do. We fake it to our level of fakedness. I just
Lee's asking how I like the new tripod. I like it. It seems like it's a really well made product. It does take a little more effort to tilt and pan than the Velbon Sherpa that I had, because on that one you can tilt and pan all with one control. It's got the lever sticking out the back of it. You just twist that and you can go up and down and back and forth and then tighten it. Whereas the new one, you have to it's got the ball, so you have to loosen the control and then move the ball and tighten the control. You have to use two hands usually. But otherwise, I really like it. I mean, I'm not saying that's, deal killer, because it's really nice.
I had a tripod.
Yeah, we need to pitch in and get Bob a tripod.
He had a tripod.
I have one somewhere.
No. When the ladder, which has two legs on top of the side of the pickup, so you kind of call that a tripod. Remember when you were at that hotel trying to get bees out of that pillar?
Oh yeah.
That was your tripod.
Lean it up on something.
Doug is asking me about getting a big bottling tank instead of filtering pails. That's a really big conversation, and I would love a solution, but I don't think the solution is very simple one.
That's because
just because of what I'm trying. Yeah, what I'm trying to accomplish. I need to get a 400 micron strain product into a 5-gallon pail as quickly as I can, and that's not really that easy.
I've got two smokers sitting out on my beehives right now.
Darren, I'll try and find what tripod it is.
So
Lee knows.
the honey comes out of your extractor, Brad, and then you say you're putting it in an extractor or something?
Goes in a sump.
In a sump. Yeah.
And then into a bottle.
So you got like a 4 chamber sump.
It's 3, isn't it?
Yeah, three chamber. Yeah.
And then it's pumped up into your tank, right?
Then it's pumped into my which is actually a wax melter, but yeah, and it'll hold. It seems like it'll hold 700 pounds.
All right, so you pump it in your tank, but you have to wait until whatever's in that will filter up to the top as far as the wax goes, right?
Well, I need to settle it because there's still some wax in it, and also need to get it warm enough that it's going to go through a 400 micron in a timely manner.
So what your wife, you get, all right, so you got this 700 pounds of honey. It's warm. It's got minimal amounts of wax in it, and now you're putting a bucket underneath a spout
Right.
with a filter in there.
Strainer.
Right.
400.
It's just those plastic 5-gallon bucket strainers
filter.
that you buy.
And then you bring that honey up to that. I guess you actually keep it below the 5-gallon pail, right? That's right.
It's sitting on a scale. It's sitting on a scale, so we scale every pail, and we write a lot number on every pail, and we write the weight on every pail. They're generally
what is a lot?
very
What is
close
a lot
to 50
number?
pounds.
What does that represent?
The lot numbers are recorded as we extract, so we know which lots we extracted which day, and the lot numbers go to the packer when they pack the honey, so they know which of my lot numbers went into which jars. It's just food traceability. There's never any issues with honey, but it's just traceability for CFIA. If somebody opens a jar and they say, "Oh, there's a nail in the jar," then they'll come back at me and say, "Okay, this lot number, you have to pull that lot," or something like that. There's a nail in the jar. I just go to the packer and say, "Why is there a nail in the jar?" Because a nail doesn't get through a 400 micron strainer.
And
Well, with enough force, maybe.
well, like you said, one of the problems is I don't know if straining the honey is the big deal, or is it because I guess it kind of is. When you strain that honey out, when you can't fill the tank back up and start, you can't do it as a continuous flow because now you have to wait for that honey to heat up to go through the filter.
It cools off and then it doesn't filter right. And I'm kind of having a conversation with Doug as well in the comments. And Doug, that's absolutely exactly 100% exactly what I'm doing. It's just that my bottling tank only holds 700 pounds. And so I have to batch that, and I can only cycle it so fast. And that's my bottleneck. Because I have to warm that honey enough that I can strain it. And because if you don't warm it, then it doesn't strain. Simple as that. That's what I've experienced.
So a second tank in that thing that Gus Mitchell uses with the ball valves to fill one tank up.
If I have a tank, beautiful. But can we take up a collection here tonight? Maybe get me a second tank.
Sure.
Well,
we could do that.
Live stream we'll do a
next
tank.
live stream. Get the super chats going.
We've got $1 in the M jar, so
in the M jar tonight.
So you're on your way.
Only $5,999 to go.
I could put a spigot on a corn can if you want.
On a corn can, put a jacket on that corn can and stretch it out to 700 pounds, and we got a deal.
Thursday, Brad. That's what Darren says. Thursday. They'll try to lock you into this Thursday night thing. I'm just telling you.
I was going to show. I got distracted, and I was going to show that tripod. This is. I think Lee did.
Lee gave him the link.
You can post my link anyway.
Yeah, I
Bob?
saw the video. Looked like a nice tripod.
It seems really nice. It seems very well made. I love the fact that it's got 5 sections, so it's only about that long when it's folded up. It's really nice. I actually bought 2 of them. Same manufacturer.
One for him and one to mail to me.
You could save that money there on that second tripod, and you could have bought yourself a tank.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second tripod was $100. That's a long way from a second tank.
That's funny.
But
The
Bob, do you see how easy it was to get that tripod? It was like 2 clicks on Amazon. Just boom.
don't start, Brad. Don't start.
You-
It's too late.
I could show you.
We could have done that Saturday night. You'd already have it.
Don't start.
We could.
Don't start.
Give me your address and I'll
I got
make
too
sure
much
you get it.
stuff to buy
And your
already.
credit card number. Hey?
It's easy how that, like you said, the left click button works really
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Too well.
It's
sometimes.
even
thing
better
with the
when
credit
one of
card
your
number?
firewood customers comes in and has a box. Here's another tripod I'm going to give you for free.
See? Talk to Charlie. He can mail you one of his many tripods that he has.
The tripods are not that expensive. The attachments for like the GoPro and stuff like that. That's the to put the GoPro on the tripod. I've never put a phone on a tripod. So
One
Yeah,
thing I
I
really
got-
like, well, you just get those little clamp. That's what I got, just a little clamp that holds the phone. But one thing I really like about this tripod over the one I had is it's taller. So I often have, especially in my wood shop, I have a hard time getting the camera up high enough to just take a good picture of me. And there's the man right there. So these are taller, so I can get a better shot.
Ian, you didn't stand
Hey,
close
Mick.
enough to your razor today.
He's been working all day.
Yeah, it's been a while. Can you hear me
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
coming through? Okay.
Hey, real quick question, Brad. So,
Yes, sir.
are there
Ian's
dairy
on it,
farms?
asking me questions. Isn't that great?
Imagine that.
Oh, no. Are there dairy farms up there? Dairy operations, daytime dairy operations?
Yeah.
Because
Not as
I
many
know
as there
down
used to
here,
be, but
I know down here there's dairy farms that unfortunately the children are selling out. The parents passed away, and they no longer want to do that, and they just sell tanks left and right, stainless steel.
oh
tanks.
yeah, that's what most beekeepers use. Yeah, I think
I didn't
Ian's
know.
isn't yours a dairy tank?
Yeah, mine's a dairy tank. Holds 12 barrels.
Holy cow!
But you can't warm it, right? Or is there a way for you to warm that honey in that dairy tank?
Well, the guy had a refrigeration unit on it, and that's off. And I could put a heat unit on it, but it's insulated. And when the honey comes through, it's warm, and I don't leave it in there long enough to worry about having to heat the tank, anyways.
Yeah.
Even when I let it sit there over the weekend, it still comes out warm, so that's good. Yeah.
So,
The guy, he retired from the dairy farm. It was back in the 50s or 60s sometime. And then he had this thing sitting in his barn, and like we sell bulls to him, and he polished this thing every year, kept the thing polished for about, till when did I buy that? Like 15 years ago. So we traded it on a bull, and it's like taking a piece of his heart away from him. He just loved that tank. So it works good for me because it's nice and contained on the top.
So we were talking about choke points or bottlenecks in our operations, right? And
Yeah, I'm the bottleneck.
well, I mean, so Brad said that your system is limited by how fast you can uncap it.
Yep, that paces the day.
So that's kind of what we watched your video. Sorry, there's Doug. We watched your video and looked at your spin float and your heat exchanger, the whole tour, right, that you gave through there. So Brad was giving us your opinion on your system there.
I'll have to go back and review.
How accurate
You heard of me, and he was pretty critical.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything in the honey house is paced by the uncapper. So I tell the guys, whatever you do, just keep that thing cutting. It's got to cut. It's got to cut all day. So I have one or two in the front preparing the boxes, loading the boxes, get it in, and I have it so that uncapper holds 1, 2 boxes, 3 boxes, and then 4 ready to go. So that uncapper never stops. And then it's time. The extractor, I think it spins 8 minutes. A full cycle is 8 minutes. That's how many frames it cuts. Actually, I slowed the uncapper down a bit just so it doesn't push the wax as much. slowed it down by 1 cog, so it just takes the frame through just a little easier. And that timed my extractor to 8 minutes. So when that tray is full, they have a little mark on the conveyor, and that's when the kid opens up the hood, pushes them through, and closes it up. And when they're good at it, they can open the extractor, push the combs in, get it spinning, close the hood before that first frame comes and hits the front. So it works out good. I tell them, if you do it too slow and you start having a buildup, I said, you're costing me money because the extractor's not spinning as long. But I said, if you can do it so it doesn't touch by the time you get it spinning, you're making me money. So they have contests on who can, not only, they're getting so good at it that not only are they getting the extractor spinning before that frame comes, but they actually time themselves how many boxes they unload on the other side while they're waiting for that frame to come touch that one side. So there's a contest, and they have times on the wall and everything like that. So that's good.
That's awesome.
So what's the so we all have wish lists on what our next piece of equipment would be if we, like, if infinite money, right? We just had the money, one thing we would buy or to improve our operation. What would yours be?
Storage shed.
A storage shed.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be like a second line to be able to run 2 at the same time or anything like that?
No, not. I'm pretty much at capacity. What you see pretty much maxes out a 1,500 hive operation. That's you have that thing running every day. Although we only run Monday to Friday, 8 to 5, but that thing running every day, we're getting 300 boxes out a day. So I mean, do your math on that, right? So as many hives as you have to be able to extract 300 boxes throughout the season. Two extractors maybe would work, but then you need twice the manpower, right?
Right.
So if I had 3,000 hives, I'd have 260 frames going with 2 crews. They would be able to complement each other's workforce, so it'd be very efficient to have 2 lines going. So then we could take the surge, but then I'd need 2 yard crews and 2 trucks and a shed, all that kind of stuff. Everything just kind of doubles itself.
But like a 120 frame extractor really wouldn't do much for your operation as far as speed, because you're still limited by how fast they can be uncapped. So you would actually slow that down.
The uncapper is that bottleneck. The advantage of the 120 is it spins longer. I think it spins longer because the conveyor is much longer, right? So it takes longer to fill up. So you might get more honey out, but the honey doesn't. I don't have a lot of residue coming out the back end. When it's really dry, I have steam, and I'll inject steam into the extractor, and it I don't know if you can say it's dry, but there's hardly any residue of honey on those frames when they leave the extractor. So it's really nice. Yeah. So, I mean, 8 minutes and a bit of steam, it's pretty good. But it does add half a point of moisture to the honey. So I have to watch if the honey's around 18, I got to leave the steam off.
Well said. So you did a fine job. I don't know what you're so concerned about. You explained that perfectly.
I guess I was listening.
We find the guy doing the scratching of the frames could be the holdup a lot of the time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a chore.
See, didn't
I'd put the new guy in that spot.
Yeah.
That's-
Our system is a little different too. We do not use a spin float. We have a wax press that we run the stuff through. Then it's pumped into about a 16 barrel holding tank. And the final wax will float off in there. At the end of the season, we'll take about, 8 inches of wax out of that. It'll float to the top. And once that's drained, we remove the wax. That's how we get our clean honey.
Is that a Paradise Press, Doug?
I believe it. Yeah, I believe it is.
It's like it makes those curly fries, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We bought the big one. I don't know whether we needed the big one because we can't keep it going really. It's more than we can handle.
Yeah, I know a guy that actually sold a spin float and went into a wax press, kind of like what you're talking about. Just the simplicity of it is the reason why he went towards that way.
Yeah.
But I would never. My spin float is my baby. I've skimmed tanks for way too long. And I just hate skimming sumps, and I hate skimming barrels, and I hate skimming tanks, and it's just the worst job on the planet. So that spin float, everything goes through there, and it takes all the wax and just drops it into a pan for me. So no more skimming. So I just love that machine.
Yeah, it does a nice job.
Well, you do have to skim the spin float once you're done.
You got to chip it out.
Oh, there's that. Yeah, that's a terrible job too.
Well, that's what I'm doing. Every morning I'm pulling my spinner out and digging the wax out of it, and that's a bit of a chore. But, considering the alternatives, I don't mind so much.
Yeah, that little bit of wax.
Think of you every morning when I'm skimming my sump. Every morning I'm thinking about Ian skimming my sump.
Yeah, chipping the wax out of the spin float isn't that bad. I mean, we will have I do it every Sunday, so usually we do 65 or 70 barrels a week, or 80, something like that. So that's a lot of honey going through for a little bit of wax I'm pulling out of a drum. So it's quiet time.
I like your little I don't know what you call it underneath, where it's just the paddles are spinning and then you're pumping all the slurry up. I like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that kind of keeps the slurry, I guess if you don't want to call it slurry, but that keeps the wax and the honey, wax floats, and then you have this great big wax layer, and I'm skimming that down. So I built this paddle to mix it, so then it goes down into the Continental and pumps it up more uniform.
Is that an auger system coming out of the extractor into there?
It's a stainless steel auger. Yeah, it runs all day.
Yeah.
It just kind of pulls it from the extractor. Not very fast. It just keeps up to when we're going through heavy loads. The auger just keeps the honey below the reel. So it could be a little better system than that, but it works just fine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So you actually put the paddle system in, the mixing system in that slump. I thought that was
we
a
welded
idea.
There's different things I see. When I bought it, it was just a straight sump with an auger coming in the bottom. So then I put that paddle system in. I see some operations, they have augers in there to kind of churn to do the same thing, which looks a little more efficient than what I have, but mine kind of works.
Yeah, because Brad was explaining on your...
stepped on you, but it's good to have it mixed like that, because when it goes through the Continental and up through the heat exchanger, it goes through little inch tubes, like a series of them. So it goes through this oil bath through the stainless steel tube, and those tubes, if the honey and the wax, if it's not churned, it'll plug up, and then you'll have problems. So the better you can mix it, the easier it goes through the heat exchanger and then down to the spinner. Yeah.
Well, does that heat exchanger kind of like melt the wax or liquefies it slightly so it goes through there?
No, it just warms. It ensures that the honey going into the spin float is a consistent temperature, which is warm. It won't separate when it's cold. Like warm honey will float out wax a lot quicker than cold honey will. So you just have to watch your viscosity to make sure the densities can pull through. And it just helps separate a lot quicker as we go. I have set it, I think it's 125 Fahrenheit, and the honey, when the honey goes, the honey temperature red leaving the heat exchanger, it's 90 degrees. So what's that Celsius? I don't even know.
Canadian
what that is.
asking for the other way.
What was it?
All I know is they suggest to have it around 90 to 92 leaving the heat exchanger, and that's all I've ever thought about.
93 is 34 Celsius.
34 Celsius, yeah. So it's just like good hot honey.
Okay. And then Brad was explaining, I always thought they were knives, but when you're cleaning that drum, you had them little flat fins sticking out off the sides of it. I always thought they were knives going around there, but he says that they're actually little tubes that's where the honey comes out of.
Silly damn thing. See, the honey leaves the drum of the spin float. Everything layers, so the honey layers and the wax floats on top of that honey layer. And as the new honey comes in and starts to float out the wax, that honey layer will increase, and then it'll leave at the bottom through a baffle. So as that honey layer just kind of bulges like that, it'll go over this baffle down and then leave the drum. And it leaves the drum through those silly looking tubes. And I think the reason they do that is just to control the spatter. So the honey leaves the tube and it only flies about that far till it hits the wall. So I think it's so it doesn't incorporate as much air. It just goes out the tube and then onto the wall and then down into the sump.
So
you don't have any foaming.
Yeah. What were you got that thing spinning around and then the honey is coming to the center of that barrel, right? Or is it off to the side?
No, it's right in the center, and it falls onto a plate. The plate takes it right to the edge of the wall, the honey and the wax to the wall, and it starts on the top of the drum, and that's where the honey starts to separate the wax out, so the wax will start to float, and as more honey comes in, it just keeps pushing that wax layer down, right? So the honey and the wax just continually move down the drum as it's being loaded from the top, and then the honey leaves the bottom. The wax gets shaved off in the center. So it needs high throughput. It can't, like a 100 hive operator, you almost need a barrel of honey to prime the whole system, right? So you have to prime the system, get it running, and then honey has to be going through it all day to make the thing work properly. But you can't overload it either. I've overloaded them, and the wax can't float out quick enough. It's probably because the honey was too dry and the wax wasn't floating out quick enough, and it was starting to bung everything out. So there's honey and wax leaving, and then there's also wax and honey being cut. And I actually put so much honey through it one time that I stalled the whole unit out, burnt all the belts. So you can't overload that system. Yeah, it's made for 120 frame extractor. It'll take a surge like that. But I know a lot of guys who have 120 frame extractor they have 2 spin floats going just to make sure they can handle the capacity if it's a heavy flow coming in. So his 16 matches it just perfectly. Yeah, that was a mess with that sucker. And then we have another problem with that damn thing is in the computer, every time we have a power surge, and I probably could fix this, talk to Brad about it, but every time there's a power surge, it resets the computer and shuts everything off. And if you don't catch it, what happens when it shuts off? Well, the motor quits, and then the system just spins itself till it stops. And when it stops, that the force keeping the honey and the wax on the wall end up on your floor. It makes a terrible mess. So my system, like my yard's at the end of the hydro line, and just about, my brother built a new yard, and he's now at the end of the line, and he's running the grain dryer, and we just updated the grain dryer. But the old grain dryer, every time that motor kicked in, the lights would just pull down like this, come back on, and every once in a while it'd pull down a little bit too far and kick off that spin float. So Carrie's paranoid. Every time she's seen his lights dim, she's looking around for the spin float because she knows that it could be trouble. There's little things like that, But other than that, the spin float's just a piece of cake.
Nice.
Yeah, it sounds like you got to really fine tune that thing. And all.
Once you get it running, it just runs all day. Like I had teenagers running this place this year, and I don't think they even looked in that corner all year. But I mean, every time I come in, I tweak it a little bit that way. It's simplicity at its best, which is probably its biggest downfall. It needs just a little bit more engineering to simplify the whole belt drive system. Is very awkward and stupid. There could be a lot, and so messy. It shaves off the wax and just throws it on the floor. You'd think they'd be able to confine it a little bit better into more of a controlled drop, but they don't. It's just
have that dump into an auger that makes onion rings out of those.
Yeah. No, well, the wax coming out, it's just like sandpaper, or not wood dust from sandpaper. It's dry. It would never go through a press.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's when I was looking at when you had that thing tore apart. It looked like to me you had that knife that spins around, and like you say, it's like it cuts the wax off and it just slings it all amongst all those moving parts. You would think it would have some type
Everywhere.
of a
Maybe a funnel, like a wide funnel.
like a
you know?
shield or a funnel that would sling that wax and hit that shield, and well, I don't know if it would be being its wax, whether it would slide down into a pot or whatever that you have it, instead of just
Yeah, I
like you
kind of
said,
built a shield that kind of contains it a little bit more, and I built a tray underneath so it helps contain it a little bit more. Maybe they've left it that way just to leave it up to the beekeeper to figure out whichever way they want. Maybe all they're thinking about is just shaving the wax and just getting it out without build up and plug up. Maybe they're just thinking about just getting it down and let the beekeeper worry about the rest of the problem. That might be their thinking. I don't know. But you look at any spin float in any honey house, and there's a mess in the corner around that machine with wax on the floor. It's one of the biggest problems.
Talking about candles and lotion bars and chapsticks and in the chat.
But your Maxent, Brad, you're saying it works all right, eh?
It's doing a good job. Yeah, I'll know. I'll have some stats on it when I melt the wax, and I can see how much honey comes out of the wax. But it seems pretty good. It seems, most of it's pretty dry. I'm still kind of learning how to maximize that. To run it for a good long spell at the end of the day, so that there's very little honey in the bottom for morning when I'm cleaning it out. There's two kind of shortcomings, I'd call them, with just the spinning drum part. Is it's got a really nice perforated stainless drum that spins, but at the bottom, structurally, the bottom is a kind of a piece of angle about an inch high that supports this perforated material, and that inch high piece has no holes in it. So any honey that hits the bottom, the bottom inch, can't, so there's always, when I'm cleaning it out, the wax that's right at that bottom inch is always saturated with honey, because there's no way for that honey to go. And so I'm thinking a bunch of holes in that angle might be in order, and also some drain holes right in the bottom of the bottom plate of the thing, which is completely solid, so that again, any honey that's drips into that center of that thing will actually drain out the bottom into the tank. But other than that, I think it's probably a pretty good unit that I have to modify it some to work under my uncapper. It's not really meant to do what I'm doing, but it still does a good job.
Is it noisy?
I think just like the spin float, I think it works best when there's a good flow of honey going through it as well, not just kind of dry cappings or something like that. It's not noisy at all. If it's balanced, which it generally is balanced pretty good, if it's balanced, you can't tell it's running at all.
Oh, that's good. That's handy. Yeah, this is
Almost
quiet
no
too.
noise
Just
at
kind
all.
of, it just whispers. At the end of the season, like we render all of our wax, and at the end of the season, if we're pulling, let's say we pull 350 drums, we'll have maybe a drum and a half, or maybe, let's say, 2 drums of melter wax from it. So out of a crop, what am I saying? Yeah, out of a crop of 350, we'll have a drum and a half to 2 drums of melter honey in the wax, so that we missed that much. So I think that's pretty good.
Okay. Yeah. You say how quiet is it? I've actually gone back to extract in the morning one time, and the spinner was running. I forgot to shut it off.
It ran all night.
So that wax was really nice and dry.
We
But
had
I don't think it matters. The
we
way
had
it
one of
runs, I
those
don't think it matters.
at one time too, Brad.
Yeah.
And what we found, we were putting through maybe more honey than what you were. We would have to clean it maybe 2-3 times a day because you would get so much buildup of wax, you weren't getting the honey to separate properly. But the same thing, like if we went for a meal, we would leave it run and, get more honey out that way too.
Yeah, I've tried to be lazy and not clean it out in the morning, and that's just disaster because
Yeah.
you can't get a full day's work then. And now what you've got is you've got a spinner that isn't that has way too much honey in it now. But the way I actually taking the discipline to actually pull it out, clean it out in the morning, the wax is actually fairly dry, and then it'll take my entire day before it starts to. Mine generally it starts to rock and roll a little bit too much. If it gets too much wax in it, it'll eventually get unbalanced. It's a tough machine though. It doesn't hurt it. It'll dance across the floor, and it's a heavy duty machine.
At one time, we had the Maxent spinner, we had the Maxent uncapper, and we had a Maxent sump. And you would think you could drain everything into the sump, but the spinner and the extractor we had to raise because they were too low to drain into the sump. You would have thought when you're buying this whole outfit, everything would work, but no, didn't.
You'd think.
Yeah.
I've kind of got a buddy lined up. Hopefully he has time this winter. We're going to try and build a small sump for the spinner because what I'm doing now has to change. It's just way too much work. There's a lot of honey goes in that spinner.
Yeah.
It's probably half the honey almost goes in the spinner. So definitely need a sump I say I need a new exit strategy for this spinner.
But now, Ian, you were saying that after 300 boxes of honey or spinning, that you actually get a barrel and a half of honey out of the wax cappings, even though it went through that machine? Is that
what I was trying to say was through an entire season with a volume of 350 drum crop, the amount of honey that I pull from rendering the wax cappings, like the honey that I missed, is only a drum and a half of cappings. Maybe let's say 2 drums of cappings or 2 drums of melter honey. So
now with that honey that comes out of the melter, it's burnt, isn't it?
It's burnt. Yeah, we cook it right up. Yeah, it's like that. The honey in the wax, it's maybe a little bit tacky. There's still honey in there, right? So it takes a lot of heat to take that honey out. So we cook it at 185, 190 degrees. We just flash it right out of there.
And then what do you do with that honey?
Down the drain. Yeah, I don't have a market for it.
Bear hunters.
Bear hunter. Yeah, that's true. I do sell some. I don't sell, but I give some slum to bear hunter. He just loves it. The bears go crazy over this stuff. Get that dirty old slum. They dump the melter honey on it and some oats, a bit of corn. Yeah. Bacon fat.
Ooh, now we're talking.
Notice he didn't say Canadian bacon.
Yes, please.
It's bacon fat.
Now I have the recipe.
That's funny. Well, guys, we've been going for almost 3 hours now.
Holy moly.
So I think I'm going to end the live portion of the test. And, so everybody's got to submit in their written portion of the exam tomorrow night during tomorrow night's live stream. So All right, guys. We'll see you guys next stream. Thanks for watching.
See everybody later.
See ya.